So I believe we've got a help desk topic for today. I think what we're going to go ahead and talk about is mining and refueling in KSP. A couple people in chat over here saying that it would be good to learn how you can actually use the drills and the ore processors and stuff like that to mine for ore and turn it into fuel so that you can refuel your spacecraft places that aren't the space center at Kerbin, right? So Kerbal Help Desk for today, we will talk about mining and refueling. We'll just go ahead and use sandbox mode for this, but let's go back to our help desk save. Resume that save. There's our help. Nope, wrong one. There's our help desk save. Click load. That's good to go. And let us learn about mining and refueling. And this is going to be a bit of stuff. Let's clean this junk up. How do I go about in Kerbal Space Program enabling ISRU? What does that mean? ISRU, right? Like it's this. This is ISRU, okay? And so you can follow along with chat. Let's put chat on the screen as well. I have terrible handwriting. It's a computer program, right? Whatever. ISRU stands for in situ, S-I-T, in situ? Is that how you spell situ? That's weird. Resource, source, whatever. Why is that a capital E? I'm going to have to write the word utilization. Whose idea was this? I'm trying to put it in the sky so you can see it a little bit better, but it's not working out well. In situ resource utilization. In situ resource utilization. And it had to go around the bottom of the screen there. Is ISRU. And Kerbal lets us do this, right? What does it mean? In situ resource utilization. It means that you go to a situation, you get into a situation, and you utilize resources. So what's a situation? Landed on the moon is a situation, right? Landed on Minmus is a situation. Landed on Ike, landed on Duna, whatever. You go to a situation and you use resources. It basically means going to a place and using the stuff you've got there, right? So we talk about this all the time when we talk about going to Mars. And we say, oh, we want to go to Mars, but we need to build HABs or something. And how can we protect these HABs? Well, you can either carry all the radiation shielding that you need with you on your trip all the way to Mars, or you can get to Mars, land, and shovel dirt on top of your house. Literally, you can use the Martian regolith, and once it gets to a certain thickness, it gives you pretty good radiation shielding, and you can get to the situation of being landed on Mars and utilize the resources that are already there, so that you don't have to carry the mass of them from Earth all the way out there, all the way back again, yada, yada, yada. Same thing with the moon. If we go to the moon, what do we have on craters at the bottom and top of the moon, right? Imagine the moon. I mean, you don't have to imagine. I have a visual aid here because I'm playing a video game. But imagine the moon, right? And if you look at some of these craters on the moon, you can actually get craters up here near the north and potentially the south pole. And in real life, those craters at the north and south pole of the moon are always in shadow. So you have, like, say, this is the top of the moon, and then at the top of the moon, there's actually a crater at the top of the moon, and then the sun is sort of hitting the moon like this, and there are parts of this crater that are always in shadow. In Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and other missions that are going to the moon actually have detected what seems to be traces of water ice in these craters at the top and south of the moon. So you're looking at Artemis, and you're looking about NASA wanting to create a base camp at the pole of the moon. Why do we want to go to the pole of the moon? One of the reasons that they're doing this, one of the reasons that they're targeting the north or south part of the moon, the poles of the moon, is because that they think that they may be able to get water ice out of these craters. And what is water made out of, right? What's water? It's the old H2, and it's got the O. And so if you know anything about, I don't know much about chemistry, but I'm married to a chemist. It's got some hydrogens in there, right? In fact, it's got 2 hydrogens and some oxygens. It's not Christmas. I'm just writing the formula for water on the screen. And if I have hydrogen, what can I use that for? Rocket fuel. Hydrogen's good. If I have oxygen, that's just the larger circle. Now I've drawn a donut. If I have oxygen, what do I have? Well, I can use that to blow it back up again and use it for rocket fuel. I've got oxidizer in rocket fuel, right? Or I can breathe it. I can breathe oxygen. So if I can find water ice, if I can find water somewhere, I can crack that water open and I can get hydrogen and oxygen, and I have rocket fuel, I have oxidizer for my rocket so I can refuel, and I have stuff for me to breathe. And water to drink, I guess, if we could distill it or whatever. So, once again, if we go to the situation of the moon, if we are in situ on the moon, we can utilize resources there for useful things. So we can do that in Kerbal as well, right? The moon in Kerbal doesn't simulate that. It doesn't say, oh, well, you have solar energy here, and that's going to melt the ice, and it's going to sublimate off, and whatever. You won't capture it here. Kerbal doesn't care about craters being in shadow. In fact, Kerbal doesn't even have anything to do with ice. Correction, Kerbal 1. Kerbal 1.0. Kerbal 2.0 may have some different resources, but Kerbal 1.0, old school, Kerbal version 1, doesn't care about the temperatures or anything like that. You're not looking for ice. In Kerbal Space Program, you're looking for ore, right? So we have some, apart from the fact that global warming is at the Space Center, we have some various bits here that we can use to go out and utilize the resources in this situation, on the moon, on Minmus, on Duna, whatever, right? And you can get those down here from where, well, actually, don't know what thing they're in. Are they in utility? Yeah, they're in utility. So if you go down to the utility tab, you can see some things like the Convertitron 125, the Convertitron 250. The drills should be in here as well. Yeah, there's the drills, the Drill-O-Matics, right? You can actually grab these Convertitrons, and the Convertitrons in Kerbal are pieces of equipment that take in resources. These are resources, right, because you're going to utilize them, and they output something useful. Or they hit me in the back of the head because I drew an arrow. They output something that you can use. So let's look at this and orient this on the screen slightly better. Is that like that, right? So in Kerbal Space Program, the resource that you're looking for is called ore. O-R-E. And I'll show you how to scan for ore and do all that stuff. And remember, as we're going through this, if you have questions, start your question with the word question. That'll save it in my interface over here, and I can answer questions as we go along. But if you have a question, please, please, please bring up, use the word question at the beginning of your chat, and that'll save it for me. And I'm actually making sure that this is going to happen. I have to bring this back up again. Just one second. Okay, solo, space flight, fixing things, outline links. I gotta find the URL. I closed the window. It's here somewhere though. Gmail. No. Oh my gosh. How is it not in my history? It's Motor Dev something. Wow. All right, we'll start the explanation again in just a second. Hang on. Boo. There it is. I got it. No, I don't have it. Apparently. All right, wait a second. I got to get it here. It's not bringing up the question, so I'm trying to... That's not it. All right, I just need to make a bookmark of this. For some reason, I'm not finding it. Oh, brother. You try to be all smooth and this happens. I just got to go grab it from Discord. That was going to be overlay info, and it should be under Helpdesk. Lower third. No. Oh, brother. When I had to restart the computer to reinstall the cards and capture cards and everything like that, I lost the link. And now I have the link again. So we're fine. Yeah, Helpdesk blooper reel. It's the help. Okay, somebody test it. Somebody start a chat with the word question, and now we should be jacked up and good to go. Okay, now we're good. All right. Question, does it work now? Yes, Kujuman, it worked. Okay. Question, does this work? Question. Thank y'all. Now we're good. Okay. So now, whew, somebody cut that out. If you have a question, please ask your question. Start it with the word question, and I can answer them in the order that it's received. My interface that I now have up and going over here we'll record your question. I can answer it. If I don't answer it right away, I'm not going to lose it. Just make sure you use question at the beginning of everything. Like this one, question, are you going to use ScanSat? No, we are not going to do any mods. We're going to talk about ore utilization in the stock KSP is what we're going to do. Eminem, you got it. That's the way to ask a question. You got it. So I am not going to do this with ScanSat. We will do this with regular ISRU, stock game, etc., etc. Okay? We do not use ScanSat here. We're not trying to learn ScanSat. We're learning the base game. So we have a Convertitron here, right? This is a Convertitron. And we got it by going over to the utility tab. You can skip forward to this part if this is where you actually want the explanation to start, right? So our Convertitron is going to take in resources, which we want to utilize because ISRU, right? And the resource that we're looking for in Kerbal is called ore, O-R-E. And we'll figure out how to find the ore and how to find the richest, most dankest ore fields or whatever. We'll do that. But we want to take in ore, and we're going to need some other stuff. We're going to need something to actually process this ore. We are also going to need electric charge to process the ore. So once we get ore at electric charge into the processor, stuff comes out the other side of it, and we can change what we want to come out the other side of it. If we right-click on it, when we're outside, we'll be able to see the different things that we can change it to. But I'll tell you right now, we can have this create liquid fuel. We could have it create oxidizer. We could have it create monoprop, right? So we can create these different types of fuel for our rocket based on what it is that we need to do. And we'll see how we can change that once we're outside. Apparently you don't see it in the scene here. You can see this in the game, so you can get information by hovering over the Convertitron here and right-clicking. And you can actually see it has a resource converter, right? And the resource converter will give us liquid fuel and oxidizer is what that means. And it needs ore and electric charge to create liquid fuel and oxidizer. So if you've got a rocket that needs to be refueled, normally you would need liquid fuel and oxidizer, so you could run it in LF plus ox mode, right? You can also make monoprop, and you can see that it takes in ore and electric charge and outputs monoprop for your RCS thrusters. You can see that it does liquid fuel, so it can take in ore and electric charge and output liquid fuel, or it can just put out oxidizer, so it takes in ore, takes in electric charge, and outputs oxidizer. So you can do one way or the other. And one thing that you need to look at on this page are the amounts. So you see the electric charge, 30 per second. That's a lot of electric charge. That's an awful lot of electric charge per second. Your probe cores use like 0.5, 0.2, that sort of stuff per second. 30 per second is a lot of electric charge. And it's 30 per second across the board for each one of the converters that you're using. Now, so what else do we need to do to get this thing running, right? Oh, the other output, the other resource, sorry, that it's going to output is going to be heat. You see this core heat thing right here? The Convertitron will actually output, and I'll just write heat like that, and I'll make it look like a flame, right? Because that's heat right there. So the heat is almost a waste product here. We're not recycling the heat to heat our blah, blah, blah. We're not using the heat for anything. We just have to make sure that we have some mechanism by which we can get rid of the heat. And what does that mean? It basically means, remember when we were talking about the ISS, how the ISS has these big radiators on the back of it? Because it's like a vacuum thermos, and all the computers and equipment and life support and astronauts and all the stuff that happens on the ISS would actually cause the ISS to overheat because it's in a vacuum. There's no way for it to get rid of its heat if it doesn't have those big radiators on it, right? So the resources in Kerbal are the same. If you have heat on there, you can actually build the heat up to a level where your resource processors are overheating. And if they overheat, they stop working, they stop being efficient completely. And so you don't want them to overheat. You want some way to get rid of the heat. So let's see how we can manage all of these things that we need to deal with once we're doing resource utilization in Kerbal Space Program, right? How can I get ore? How can I get electric charge? How can I store the liquid fuel and oxidizer, I guess? And how can I get rid of the heat? These are the things that we need to do. In fact, I'll write that down. Let me write down a list of things to do. It is 1, collect ore, right? 2, get EC. My handwriting is so bad. So some people have such nice handwriting, and mine is terrible. 3, store output, right? And 4, I'm going to write radiate heat. Those are the 4 things that we need to do here, right? We need to collect the ore, we need to get electric charge, we need to store the output, liquid fuel, oxidizer, whatever, monoprop, and we need to radiate the heat, okay? So those are the tasks that we need to figure out. So collecting the ore is pretty straightforward, right? In order to collect the ore, I have these big drill-o-matic mining excavators. You see that? The drill-o-matic mining excavator. And I can use the drill-o-matic mining excavator, like say that we get, just put a little tank on here or whatever. That's fine. And we go down to utility and we grab the drill-o-matic. We can put drills on our craft, right? And the drills have a cool deployment mechanic where they drill into the ground, okay? So whatever we build to process these resources is going to need to have a drill. We need to take that drill to a place. We need to drill for ore. We'll figure out where we should take it and that sort of stuff coming up. But we need to put some drills on our craft. So let's go ahead and put a drill over here. We're going to need it. Now, there are 2 different sizes of drills. There's this little drill-o-matic junior mining excavator, and there's the drill-o-matic mining excavator. And basically, they have different masses. The big one's 1.25 tons, the small one's 0.25 tons, and they have different efficiencies. So if I come over here and I grab, it's just the fuel tank that I can put some stuff on. I just had one of those and I threw it away. If I put the small drill on here, you can see the small drill takes up a lot less space, and it also weighs a lot less. It's only a 1/4 ton instead of 1.25 tons. But check this out. It says, and I'm gonna have to get together like on the math on this. This says that it has an asteroid drill, and if you're using it on an asteroid, it's 100% base efficiency. So using a little drill on an asteroid is pretty good. It says 100%, and it takes 0.3 electric charge per second. It also has a resource harvester on the surface of a planet, but look at this. It says planetary use, like if you land on Minmus or Duna or something like that. It says 30% base efficiency. So this is telling me that it's a lot less efficient to use the drill on the surface of a planet as opposed to an asteroid. And you're like, whoa, wait, asteroids? What do you mean? I thought we were talking about using resources that were in different situations. Kerbal actually does allow you to fly out and capture an asteroid and claw to it and then drill into it and pump the ore out of the asteroid and turn that into fuel. You can literally refine fuel from asteroids that you capture in KSP. If we have time, we'll do that at the end, but that might be more of an asteroid capture. Like maybe Thursday we do asteroid capture or something, right? So, long story short, small drill weighs less. If we're using it on an asteroid, it's still good to go, 100% efficiency. But if we take this small drill and we try to use it on like a little rover or something like that, it's not very efficient. It's only 30% efficiency. It says that it takes 0.9 electric charge per second to generate 0.3 ore per second. Those numbers don't mean anything because it really matters how rich the ore field you land is. Bear with me. Again, if you have questions, say questions. Do a question as the beginning of your chat, and that'll save it for you. And we are going to do the stock scanner. Yes, we are going to get to scanning for ore and that sort of stuff. First, we're talking about building the craft, right? So I guess we could have done that in a different order. We could say, here's how to find ore, and then here's how to build a craft to go and get the ore. I mean, all right, whichever. We're making this up as we go. So the big drill, right? The big drill here. Look at this. The asteroid drill, if you take the big drill to an asteroid, it says 500% base efficiency. It uses 7.5 electric charge per second, but it's got 500% efficiency. It's a lot more efficient than the little drill that only weighs a 1/4 ton if you carry the big drill out here. And look at this thing. The surface harvester, or the resource harvester on the surface of a planet, is 150% base. So is that 5 times better? I mean, 30% versus 150%? I don't know. This isn't a math stream yet. But this is going to use 22.5 electric charge per second to output 1.5 ore per second. Your mileage may vary based on the richness of the ore field that you go to, right? We'll talk about that. So we've got all this. That's a lot, yeah, 150 versus 50. So big drill, heavier, uses more electric charge, but can pull ore out of the ground faster. Small drill, lighter, doesn't weigh as much, doesn't use as much electric charge, but can't pull ore out of the ground as quickly. You're not going to want to refill your mothership using this little drill. And you're not going to want to take this massive drill on a teeny tiny little hopper lander that you want to be able to refill itself, right? So that is a theme. The drills that we can put on the craft are going to have different efficiencies, masses, sizes, form factors, the whole shoot and match, right? The same thing holds true. I mean, just real quick, there's a little drill. There's a drill. Like, no kidding, this one's going to drill more oil, right? Oil? Resources. There's no oil in Kerbal Space Program. You get all that, but you still have to lift the big drill. That's exactly right, El Tanko Joe. You still have to carry the big drill around, right? So the same thing applies to the processor. If you hop over here, you can see there's a Convertitron 125, and there's a Convertitron 250. There's a small one that's 1.25 meters, and there's a big one that's 2.5 meters. And look at this. This says that it can take 2.5 ore per second, and it uses 30 electric charge per second to output 0.22 and 0.28. Hang on to those numbers, 2.5 ore per second. The big one can actually take 0.5 per second, so it can process double the ore per second, and it uses the same electric charge. Now wait a second. Oh no! No, I said that wrong. This is 2.5 ore per second. The big processor only uses a half ore per second. I just messed that up. The big processor processes the ore a lot more slowly, but look at what you get out of it. Oh, wow. This is out of a half ore, 0.5 ore, you get a half liquid fuel and a half oxidizer. Close enough, right? So for a half ore, you get a half liquid fuel and a half oxidizer on the big processor. On the little processor, for 5 times as much ore, you get half the output. Wow. So the little processor is way less efficient. It has 2.5 ore per second. It takes 2.5 ore per second, and you're like, oh, DOS, that's good. Look, it can go through it can process the ore a lot faster. 2.5 ore per second is a lot more than 0.5 ore per second. Clearly, the smaller Convertitron can do it a lot faster. No, because for 2.5 ore, you only get a 0.22, 0.28 liquid fuel and oxidizer output. And on the big one, it only takes you a half ore to get double the output. Same sort of thing. 4.25 tons. This one only weighs 1.25 tons. This one's a big 2.5 meter thing. This is a small 1.25 meter thing. I mean, yeah, the small processor and small drill combo going nowhere fast. Yeah, so technically, could you make a craft that uses the small ore processor and small drills? Yes, you could make a craft that does this. That's true, but you're going to waste a ton of ore. You're not going to get ore very quickly with a little measly weak drills, and you're going to waste a ton of ore with the smaller processor. Long story short, the small ones, the small processor, the small drills, they're sort of for like boutique processing. Like, you're not in a hurry. If you can just scrape enough ore out and you don't mind carrying the 1.25 and 0.25, the 1.5 tons to carry that equipment around if you just put one drill on, you can certainly make something that uses the small processors. If you have a big ship, if you have a big mothership or something like that, or you're trying to build a refinery somewhere that's going to refuel all your missions all around the rest of the solar system, you're probably not going to... It's artisanal ore processing. You're probably not going to rely on the small processor and the small drills for a refinery. This is more of this one probe that just needs to refuel itself, right? Because it's so much waste and it's so slow. Might be good enough for a little plane on lathe that can pick its spot or something like that, yeah. But it's not going to get you anywhere quickly. Little min-miss hopper or something like that, yeah. So you could do it. You could build it that way. But if you're talking ISRU and KSP, again, to recap, the small processors, the small drills, super wasteful, takes 5 times as much ore to do half the output, and the drills barely drill anything out of the ground because they're tiny. If you use the large if you use the large processors, you get more mass, but it's a lot more efficient, and it's going to be a lot faster to actually get some drill going, right? or to get your ore processing, refining going. So, any questions about what we've done so far? Are we going to use ScanSat? We answered that one. We will be talking about how we actually look for the ore. In fact, if I had to do this again, maybe I would have started with scanning for ore before I built the craft to actually go and get the ore. Whichever. The stock scanner, we will talk about the stock scanner. The survey scanner, yep, we're using that. Kerbal Smasher and Zippo Zane. Are holding storage tanks mandatory, or will convert straight across like this? Tiny, we're getting there. We're getting there. First we were talking about actually running the drills, right? Or putting the drills on. We need a place to actually put the ore, so we'll talk about that here coming up. Is it better to drill ore and process it, or just hold the fuel? Hang on to that one. A Jaguar B, or Jaguar AB. Hang on to that. There's a lot of math that goes into that, but I will. We'll talk about that in just a bit. I'm going to leave your question there, okay? So, in order to process the ore, I need to have ore, right? And the drill can get ore. That's good. Fantastic. And the converter can take ore, and it can actually convert that into fuel or whatever. But if I come over here and I just want to drill for ore, can I just go out to the launch pad and drill, right? Will it work? Let's find out. Let's go over here and grab this. I'm just going to put the ease on it. 4x symmetry. That looks pretty good. Let's put some electric charge on it as well. So I'm just going to grab the big old battery and toss it on the top of it. And let's put a probe core on it as well. And let's go drill for ore on the launch pad. All right? I'm just going to go send this out to the launch pad and drill for ore. In Lunar Canis Lupus, I will get to that. We will absolutely get to that. Okay, so here's our refinery, right? Or refinery, or whatever. I'm not an oil field hand or anything, but I'm not sure that this is going to do a lot of drilling. Like, even if we start the surface harvester on, it doesn't, no ground contact. It's complaining. It's complaining here that it's not actually touching the ground. And if I try to start it, it says that, dude, you're not actually drilling anything, you idiot. That's not going to work. So let's go refine our design slightly. We have to fix this. The Kerbal engineering knew something like this may maybe happen and reinforce the pad. I'm literally just going to move these up to the side like this. Little bit of clipping, but that should be enough. Long story short, if you deploy the drill, this part here has a collider on it, right? This part has a moving collider. And so when the drill moves into that position, if that collider hits the ground, it'll actually flip you over. You can use drills as landing gear. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but you can do it, right? So this collider is actually going to move, and a collider is just something that's going to push against the ground whenever it touches it, right? And it has a moving collider, so it's going to fall down and basically flip you over like that. Okay, I just deleted what I needed to. I don't want to delete everything because I want that to be up there. So all I did was just move it up so that doesn't hit the ground. So let's put this back out on the pad and try again. Could anybody get a clip of that thing falling over for me right quick? Just like the thing falling over. I never did the tweet saying we were doing Kerbal Helpdesk. So we've got our little refinery. We've deployed this. It hasn't fallen over this time, right? And if we deploy this drill, we can see that collider is not going to hit the ground. So let's go ahead and start drilling for ore and see if we get any. All right, I'm just going to do start surface harvester. And it is using some electric charge. It says that it's getting 0.12 ore per second, so that's not bad. But we're drilling into the launch pad, which is sort of weird. You know what? We'd probably get more resources if we just drilled directly into the fuel tank. We are, in fact, getting a little bit of ore, but you can see it says that our ore is full right now. We don't have any place to put the ore, right? And even if I came over here, I just want to see, can I just process it straight away? No. So this says that it's getting ore. It says that it's getting 1.26566 per second. And this says that it's looking for ore. Like I try to start that, but it says that it's missing ore. So I'm missing something on here. I don't have a place for the ore to hang out as it moves from the drill to the refinery. Let's go over here, revert the flight. Let's go put an ore tank on this thing. So we can grab a, instead of this, let's take this little fuel tank off. Like that. What? Oh, well, yeah, that's fine, I guess. And we'll go over to our tanks, and if you come down and find these black tanks here, that's actually an ore tank. And you can use the ore tank to store your ore while you're drilling for it. All right, so oops, that's not right. Put that like that. Like that. So now we've got an ore tank in there, and if we put this thing out to the pad, we can actually drill for some ore and see it go into the tank. Let's see if it works. Survey says there's the contents of our ore tank. You can see that it's empty right now. And if I start this harvester, am I getting ore? It says that I'm getting 1.2. Yep, there you go. I'm getting a little bit of ore there. And that's curious, right? It says that it can get 1.266 per second, but it's not getting, or 0.12, but it's not getting 0.12 per second. In fact, you can see that it says that it's operating at only 3% load right now. So even though here, if it was operating at 100% efficiency, I should be expecting this number right here to go up at 0.12 per second. It's not. The harvester is complaining that it can only run it. Now it's going down and down. Why is this going down? Look at the temperature. It likes to be at 500K the best, and it's at 650K. It's overheating, Savvy, dude, thank you. It's overheating right now, right? So I need to go and I need to add some radiators to this to actually make it so that the drill operates within its thermal efficiency band or whatever you want to call it, right? So let's go over here. I'm just going to revert the flight one more time. We are getting ore, and honestly, we could probably take that ore and... Oh, I took off the liquid fuel tank. I don't have a place to actually put the fuel that I make. Again, it's the whole chain. I need a place, I need a way to get the ore out of the ground with the drill. I need a way to store the ore. I need a way to process the ore. And I need a place to store the results of processing the ore. So let's go over here and revert the flight one more time. Back to the vehicle assembly. Sudaban, que paso? I appreciate you. How are you doing? Let's grab some fuel tanks. I'm going to grab a fuel tank and like put it on the bottom here, right? And I'm actually just going to remove the liquid fuel and oxidizer like that. This is not the greatest place to put a fuel tank. But let's go ahead and put this back on the pad and make sure that it's all working. Then we'll come back over, we'll put some radiators on. So step one, pin this out. There's the ore we have. Start the drill. And so we started the drill. It starts off at 300. You see it rapidly start to overheat, and then the efficiency starts to go back down again. But we are getting a little bit of ore here. And then we have the fuel tank as well that's empty. And if we go over here and we do start ISRU, you can actually see that's taking the ore out of the tank. You see the ore going down now and putting liquid fuel and oxidizer into the tank. And at some point, it's actually running out of ore. There's no more ore stored. And so now it's running at less than a 1% load. It has the thermal efficiency as well. It's overheating. Forfa! 51 months. Here's the many more months. I appreciate you, Forfa. Thank you very much for the 51 months. Ah, yes. So this is basic. We're actually getting fuel and oxidizer for free here. I am going to run out of electric charge at some point, because we're operating at a very low percentage of our thermal efficiencies. It's not taking that much electric charge right now, which is sort of weird. You would think that it was when it was running at a low efficiency that it would take the full electric charge, but it's not. It's barely using the electric charge because it's running at 1% load. So let's go put some radiators on this puppy and see if we can make it drill a little bit more efficiently. Go to the heat tab, the thermal tab, and you can see there's lots of different types of radiators. There are radiators that stick off the side like that. There's curved radiator panels that sort of contour along the side like that. There are teeny tiny little radiator panels like that. There are bigger panels, so there are deployable radiator panels that actually extend out like that, right? And then you eventually get up, there's another big one. Oh, and that one's pretty big, right? Oh, that seems like it should be enough heat. You get to the big honkin' International Space Station radiator. I'm not sure that I've ever needed this, right? But let's start off.
Welcome back.
Who is that? Mad Hump. Thank you, Mad Hump. I appreciate you. Let's just start off with some small radiators, all right? I'm just going to put these smallest of little radiators on the side. And let's go out and run it this way and see how the radiators work, right? That would be a big old clump of nukes. Nice. And I will get to showing how the radiators work and stuff like that. I'll show you how to calculate it, right? So, we can start our drill. And let's see what our thermal tolerance gets up to. It's still overheating. I put radiators on. What gives? That's lame. Why is it still overheating? Are they just too small? The radiators are actually, you have to activate them. So you do need to turn on the radiator in order to get some cooling out of it. Activate the radiator there. And now let's go see what the thermal efficiency of the drill is. You can actually see the drill cooling down. So it's still only running at 4% of load, but it is cooling down here. And we should be able to get a little bit more ore per second, right? Let's see, are we getting some ore? We're getting ore. It's still not cooled down all the way. Thermal efficiency is increasing. The electric charge is actually being used a little bit faster. The cooler it runs, the more electric charge it uses, which seems to be sort of weird. But it is actually going down. So this helped us out a little bit, but we're still only at 5% load, right? Radiators work differently in space on Kerbin and the moon? Yes, they do. Depending on where you have the radiators, they'll have different abilities to get rid of heat. But we'll talk about how we can get the numbers, okay? We'll go and look at the numbers for it. This says that it's cooling 16.48%. I think that means that it's 16.48% of the capacity of the radiator. So I would expect these to eventually cool all the way down. I'm just going to time warp and see if we ever get to 100%. There, 500. So 500K, we're running at 100% now. And let's go and look at what our radiator is doing. It's still 16.7%. So that radiator is cooling us down just fine for this one drill, right? So can we overload this? Can we overload this? Let's put another drill on and see what happens. Start this service harvester. It's heating up. The radiator is still at 16.73. Let's pin the radiator out. It's still heating up, but there's 500. Oh. Interesting. With two drills running, now both of the drills are overheating. Even though this says 16.77%, those little radiators are not powerful enough to actually cool both of these drills. What if we turned this on as well? So now everything's overheating. Let's see if this goes above 1,000. Yeah, that's overheating as well. So these two little teeny tiny radiators, I don't know why they did it this way. I don't know why it says 16.83%, but it's not able to actually cool down the equipment that's attached to it. I don't understand why they do this. I don't know why they did it this way. But long story short, these radiators are not enough. And how can we tell? If we revert the flight back to vehicle assembly, I'm going to have to remember some of this because I don't remember everything here. But let's go and look. If I look at a drill, right? It says that the optimum temp is 500K, the shutdown temp is 1,000K, the insulation is 1%, the required cooling is 100 kilowatts, and the max cooling is 100 kilowatts. So I think the required cooling is what we need here. And no, Chilla, the radiators will pull from off the craft. These radiators will pull from the parent. I'll get to that, Chilla, we'll get to that. It says that they're 100 kilowatts of cooling is what the drill needs. So if we go over and we look at those little radiators, one thing at a time, this provides 50 kilowatts right there. And I don't know, it says max cooling 1043, transfer rate 10%, cools up to 4x part temp, like all these other things. I'm not sure what those are useful for. I just know that we typically look at the output from what we're trying to cool, and we look at the, we look at the required cooling, and the required cooling needs to be equal to the core heat transfer, is what we look at. So when we were running 2 radiators that each did 50 each, that was a total of 100, and the drill needed 100. But once we turned on the other drill, which needed 100, another 100, we had 200 heat output, and we only had 100 cooling. And once we turned the ISRU thing on, the big processor, that took us all the way up to 200. So to run all this, we need 400 cooling, right? So we could put 8 of the little radiators, and I would expect that to work. Or we could look at some of the other radiators. These here, those cool 200 each. Those cool 150 each. I mean, heck, if I was going for 200 or 400, I could just put 2 of these on, right? Because each one of these radiators cools 200, and this drill requires 100, this drill requires 100, and this requires 200. So we're outputting 400, and we're cooling 400. You almost always want to overbuild a little bit, so I would probably want more cooling on board, but let's go see if these will all operate at 100% thermal efficiency, right? Let's go check it out, and I've attached that to that. Okay, let's go see what we get here. So we need the large extendable in a pair. Nice. What's up, Public Rec? How are you doing? Activate that radiator. Activate that radiator. The radiator actually takes some electric charge. Did you see that? The radiator is taking 0.03 electric charge per second. And it still says 16.47%. Let's fire up these drills. There's a drill. There's a drill. Let's see. Just with the drills, are they going to stay at 500? Bink! 500. And then the radiators kick in. And you can't see it because they still say 16.47. The number of saturation, if the number is rising, you don't have enough cooling. The cooling percent should stay constant when all heat generating options are at 100% efficiency. Gotcha, Savvy. On the radiators, that number is saturation.
Welcome back to the academy.
It's sort of out there. It's sort of weird. Let's start this one as well. Is that going to make it to 1,000 and stop? Bink. Yes. So now we can actually operate the refinery and the ore drills, because it's 100, 100, 200, and we have 400 cooling. That's what we're looking for. I like it. Lightside, I appreciate you. Thank you for the 62 months. The 62 months is an awful long time. And it's making fuel. That's right. You can see. Kerbling Smasher, it is making fuel. Not very quickly. This is probably not the most rich ore field in the world. We're literally drilling the launch pad. But we are, in fact, making fuel. And if we needed to fill up that fuel tank, we could just time warp. Look at that. I am amazed that it's barely taking any electric charge to do this. I guess I just put a lot of electric charge on it because I put these batteries on, right? Cement is not known as a fuel-rich resource. I do need a 5-year badge. Do I need a 5-year badge? Is the battery the 4-year badge? Ugh. We'll get around to it, Lightside. We'll have to come up with like a battery and, I don't know, a different color or something. We need to make a battery. Or we need to make a badge. Anyways. So now we have all of our inputs and outputs handled, right? We have all of our inputs and outputs handled. We have, I erased our stuff. We have ore going in via the drill. Well, let's draw it this way. The ore is actually going in via the drill to the tank, right? We're storing the ore in the tank. We're taking the ISRU thing to process it. We're taking electric charge out of the batteries to run the drills and the ISRU. And then we're storing, and doesn't look good at all, we're storing the fuel down in the little fuel tank. And then we're also putting out heat. And we're able to radiate the heat off. Wow. It's an emergency alert for South Carolina. Hang on, chat. That's not you. This is me. Go home, stay home, travel only for work and essential. Virus is spreading in all South Carolina counties. Y'all just caught up with that, South Carolina? Do they have a stay-at-home order yet? Anyways. Yeah. Well done, South Carolina. Appreciate you. Thanks for getting caught up. Yeah, how unexpected. Yeah, that's sort of weird. So, we're dealing with all of our resources. We've got ore. Sorry about that. We've got electric charge, and we've got ore, and we're outputting heat and fuel. Like that. And we're handling everything here. We're dealing with the heat, we're storing the fuel, we're getting the ore out of the ground, we're consuming the electric charge, and then we're storing the ore in there as well. Any questions on that? I know, Parapi, here in North Carolina as well. We're like, 2 weeks into a stay-at-home order, and then my phone starts going off with South Carolina getting caught up with the rest of the world. Ay. So, any questions? Let me roll through this. See if we can do some lightning round stuff. Survey scanners, we'll get to that sort of thing. Holding tanks, storage tanks, mandatory. So Tiny, yes, you do need a holding tank on this. You need a place to store the ore even as a pass-through. You need a little bit, right? Let's mark that one off. You do need a holding tank for the ore on it. We talked about, is it better to drill ore or process it or just hold the fuel? Agile, we'll get to that once we start building some things. Question, what are the best places to set up a refining fueling station? Moon, Gilly, Ike, Jewel, Moon, Elu, Lunar Canis Lupus. Look for places that have the lowest gravity. Minmus is fantastic because Minmus has really low gravity and big flat areas. Ike's not bad. Ike is probably a little bit better than Duna because you don't have to deal with the atmosphere and Ike has lower gravity. Pole or Bop, also fine, right? Look for places that have low gravity. If you're having to choose between Gilly and Eve, do you think you should land on Gilly to get fuel, or do you think you should land on Eve to get fuel? Well, that's a whole different story, because if you're trying to get off of Eve again, you could certainly get the fuel from Eve. But if you're just refueling in the Evian system, Gilly is not a bad place to fuel up around there because there's almost no gravity, right? So look for places that have low gravity and places to land. Minmus is the number one thing to think of because the flats are so nice to put craft on. But it's a really quick question. Again, most of the places you go, it's going to come down to your mission. If your mission is to land a craft on Duna and you want that craft to take off again, right? Then you're going to get the fuel from Duna because it's just one craft that has the ISRU and has the drills and has everything on it. So that craft wouldn't necessarily land on Ike, fill up with fuel, then land on Duna and take off again. You could do it that way. But mostly you would want to land on Duna in a good ore field, refill the craft with fuel, and then take off again. Just 1 second. I'm getting messages or something here. Huh. Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I had some messages pinging through me there. Let me handle that real quick. Okay, got it. So if the purpose of the craft is to refuel itself, land it wherever it's supposed to land to refuel itself and complete its mission. If the purpose is to set up a refinery that's going to supply other craft, then go for the low gravity places where you could do things where you could get fuel more easily. And why do we care about the gravity, right? You're like, dude, Das, all you have to do is just get infinite fuel and then you can take off because you're making fuel. Like, why do you care about landing in a place where there's low gravity? And here's the sort of thought about that, right? If you design a refinery, okay, and it's on the ground at Minmus, like say this is on the ground at Minmus, and you want to refuel a ship that's in orbit, right? Like this, a ship that's in orbit like that, and you want to go up and you want to refuel that ship that's in orbit. Okay, better. It needs the piece. if you land in a high gravity planet, you have to carry all of that fuel up to rendezvous with the craft that's in orbit. And I'm talking like mothership craft here, right? If I need 200 tons of fuel, that means that I have to design a lifter that is going to be able to carry a 200-ton payload from the surface of the planet up to orbit and then dock with the target and deliver 200 tons of fuel, or 50 tons times 4, or 25 tons times 8, whatever, right? But in order to get 200 tons of fuel to orbit, I'm making these numbers up. I may need 800 tons of fuel. So if the gravity is a high gravity planet, and I need 800 tons of fuel to deliver 200 tons to orbit, I have to refine 1,000 tons of fuel in order to deliver 200 tons of fuel. Compare that to Minmus, and again, I am completely making these numbers up, okay? I haven't done the math on this, but this is the general gist. On Minmus, I may be able to get 200 tons of fuel to orbit for only 50 tons. So instead of having to generate 1,000 tons of fuel, I may only need to generate 250 tons because Minmus is so low gravity. And so I can refuel this big mothership a lot more easily by choosing a location that's on a low gravity planet instead of a high gravity planet like Tylo, right? That's why you want to look for Minmus or something with low gravity as opposed to high gravity. Unless this entire craft can come down and land. And if this entire craft can come down and land or whatever, and it has drills that come out the bottom of it, then this whole thing can just land on whatever planet it's designed to take off from and refuel itself. And that's right, Thailand, you're exactly right. Thailand is exactly right. If you have something that you've used to deliver all this fuel up to orbit, that big 1,000-ton lifter, you get it up there, you have 200 tons of fuel, but you're empty now because you delivered it. You need even more fuel left over so that you can come back down and land again and refuel again. Right? So, I mean, this even gets into should the refining equipment be on board the craft that delivers the fuel? And if you're building a refinery, probably not. If you're building a refinery, you probably want a craft that comes over here and it's got the payload and it's got the fuel and it lands on the ground next to the refinery and fills up so that you don't have to carry the drills and the radiators and the batteries and the ISRU and data and the ore tanks and all that sort of stuff up and down with you. Like trim that mass off, and then this vehicle becomes more efficient because you're not carrying stuff you don't need to, right? The other question there was, is it better to drill ore and process it or just hold the fuel? And I think that it makes the most sense to just process the ore on the ground. Okay? I think that it makes the most sense to not carry ore around. Because you could do it. You could certainly do it. But if your design is going to be just a driller, right? So imagine that this thing has drills on the side of it. Those are drills. You can tell by the cross-hatching that makes them drilly. And the pointy bits at the bottom. Okay, those are drills. And if you are going to go and you're going to take ore up, and your refinery isn't on this, you have to have enough fuel for 2 phases of your mission. You have to have enough fuel to land, and then you have to have enough fuel left in your tank to take back off again and rendezvous with the orbital refinery. And that becomes a lot more complicated to plan for. You can certainly do it this way, and I can certainly spell fuel correctly as well, right? So if I'm trying to do this, whatever I leave the refinery with has to be enough to get me landed. I fill up with ore, I don't make any more fuel, and I carry all that ore, which is really heavy, all the way back up to the refinery again so that I can get the refinery to process it, and then the refinery refills my fuel again, and then I can go and land again, drill some more ore, and go up. You could certainly do that. You could certainly do that, right? However, if you don't deliver ore, if you just deliver fuel, you can just make fuel. I guess, what's the right way to say this, I guess, right? What's the right way to say this? I don't have to worry about carrying a separate payload that's completely worthless for me taking off and rendezvousing with something in orbit again. Everything that I generate is something that I can use for my mission, as opposed to carrying basically dead weight until it gets up to the top. The difference is, in this case, you can just leave the refinery in orbit, so you don't have to worry about landing it on the ground. And if we do it this way, you do try to land the refinery on the ground. It's a little bit easier to dock things together in orbit than it is to dock things together on the ground. You end up having like a rover fuel truck or something like that is actually going to dock the refinery, then drive over to the landed fuel transport, then take back off again. Does that make sense? Keep the drills and the ore tanks on the surface, have the fuel tanks undock and go into orbit. But that's only if you're squished in. That's the second thing, right? That's if you have your refinery on the ground, you don't leave the refinery in orbit. Does that answer your question there? I always try to transport fuel, because it's easier to sort of plan for things if you're not carrying the dead mass of ore around. Then you carry the refinery each time you land and take off, more fuel use. No. We're not doing that. We're saying that you leave the refinery on the ground here, right? And the refining equipment stays down here. And the reason I just drove a fuel truck with a little fuel docking port on the back is because in one case you land the refinery, then you carry fuel up and down. And in the other case, you leave the refinery in orbit and you carry ore up and down, and you have to worry about fuel, is the way that I would say to do it. So I always generate fuel on the ground, and then I deliver fuel up and down because it's just easier to deal with. All right. So let's keep looking. This thing is still drilling. Question: where are the best places to set refinery fueling? Okay, we got that one. Question: do you need to clamp to an asteroid, land on a body to mine it, or can you just station keep? So Snackless Kerbal, we haven't quite got to asteroid mining yet, but I will just answer you really quickly. In order to drill an asteroid, you do have to drill to it. You have to clamp to it, and you have to use the claw for that. So you have to use the advanced grabber unit to claw to the asteroid before the game will let you drill into an asteroid. You can't just fly by it and like scrape it with a drill. That won't it won't let you do that. You got to be attached to it. I'm pretty sure. Last I checked, that was the way it works. Last I checked. If that's incorrect, somebody correct me. But I'm pretty sure you have to claw to it. Do radiators work better in fluid, like water atmosphere? Orion, yes. If you're in a planet that has an atmosphere, you will get a little bit more efficiency out of the radiators. And look at this. It actually looks like... Oh. That's actually increasing the heat for some reason, but we're full up on fuel here. Curious. No, we'll come back to that. For something to decide, how many radiators do you recommend? So Kerbal Smasher, that's what we were just looking at. Did I already answer that question? When we went over and we looked in the hangar and we tried to see, okay, utility, this big Convertitron wants 200 kilowatts of requiring cooling, and so I need to give it a radiator that has 200 kilowatts of heat transfer on it. Did that already answer that question for you? What do these do? Those are 50 kilowatts. 250 in those deployable thermal control systems, and those are 1,000 on the big ones. So look. There's one more thing I need to talk about here before we go any further with radiators, right? There's one more thing that I need to talk about, and that's the way that these radiators work. If you hover over the radiator, do you see where it says cools only nearby parts? Cools only nearby parts. Cools only nearby parts. And you look at these and they don't say cools only nearby parts. The last I checked, this is the way that these three radiators worked. The fixed radiators. The deployable ones are different. But the fixed radiators have to be attached to the same part.
Welcome back to the Academy.
That's generating the heat. Okay, YFG, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate you. That means that if I have a drill that's attached to this ore tank, and I actually attach the radiators up here to these batteries, these fixed radiators will not cool this drill. Even when you right-click, activate, yada, yada, yada. they are not close enough. And the last I checked, it had to be the grandparent part. So what does that mean? That means, or no, it had to be the parent part. That means that if the drill is attached to this tank, the radiator also has to be attached to that same part. So if the drills are on a fuel tank, the radiator also has to be on the fuel tank. If the drill is attached to an I-beam, the radiator also has to be attached to the I-beam. For the fixed radiators, they have to be attached to the same part as the one that you're trying to cool. Okay? Yeah, brother and sister parts. Yeah, they have to be brother and sister parts. You're right. Brother and sister parts, exactly. The other radiators, the deployable radiators, work differently. So if you have the deployable radiators, these don't say only cools nearby part. So you could put a deployable radiator up here, and you could deploy it, and the radiator up here will cool the parts anywhere on the vessel. It doesn't matter how many hops or parts or what's connected to what. These actually simulate some sort of magical heat tube, pipe, flow, whatever, that actually can carry heat throughout the vessel, and it doesn't matter where you put them. You don't actually have to put a heat pipe on or anything like that. You just have to put these anywhere on the vessel, and they'll cool it down, right? So the deployable radiators you can put anywhere, and they'll cool all the parts on your vessel. The fixed radiators you have to put on the same part. You have to surface mount them to the same part as the one you're trying to cool. And I've cheated here, right? Because those are both attached to the same part. And I can cool this as well because they're both attached to the same part, right? I have the ISRU snapped to the tank, and then I have the radiator attached to the tank. So this placement will cool the ISRU, the converter itself, and it'll also cool the drill, right? This is like an intermediate Kerbal topic. It's a little bit more complicated. Something, ammonia tube, slush, I don't know, yeah. Something like that, Giga. So Kerbling Smasher, you should be good with how many radiators you need. Can we show everybody how much cooling we need? Zippo Zane, there you go, now you know. Lunar Capus, we got you that one. Do the drills have to be attached to the orbital? Neuron Moon, yes. In this case, so for cooling purposes, the small radiators have to be attached to the same part. For drilling purposes, you don't have to attach the drill to the tank. If this tank wasn't here, and instead I had a tank up on the top like this, well, let's get a surface mount tank. If I had surface mount tanks up here, these drills will put ore into these tanks up here. And conversely, the ISRU doesn't have to be directly attached to a fuel tank either, right? The ISRU can just be anywhere, and the fuel tanks can be anywhere on the craft. So that was a good question. After I reread it, I was like, oh, do the drills have to be attached to the ore barrel? You were probably asking if the drill wouldn't put ore into the tank if you didn't have them directly attached. And no, you can put the drills wherever you want. It's just the radiators that are important as to where you put the radiators, right? So it wouldn't cool something in the region of the probe core for the small radiators. Yeah, these small radiators would not cool anything up here. The small radiators would not cool the probe core, but the probe core is not generating heat, so you're okay. Hey, Roman Empire, how you doing? What's the largest, smallest planet in real life or in Kerbal? I think Gilly is the smallest planet, and Jewel is going to be the largest planet in Kerbal, if that's what you're looking for. It's a whole other ball of wax. I don't have all the planets in the solar system memorized because there's hundreds of official planets in the solar system. I don't know which one's actually the smallest these days. The biggest planet's Jupiter that we know of here, if you're not talking exoplanets. But I'm not sure, like, Ceres, where the smallest planet is in the regular solar system. Desi Su. Let's say I have a fueling station around the moon, and my destination is Duna. How do I align my orbit around the moon and the moon's orbit around Kerbin to work with my transfer window to Duna? Wow, Desi, that is out there. That doesn't have anything to do with ISRU. I could show you how to do that. I can try and draw it for you just really quickly because we're focused on ISRU, right? But really quickly, if you're trying to transfer from the moon to Duna, you can do it. This is Kerbin. This is the moon, right? Kerbin has an orbit, and you're trying to go to Duna. Normally, if you're doing a regular transfer window, your maneuver node's going to be over here, right? Or sorry, in low Kerbin orbit is the right way to say it. In low Kerbin orbit, your maneuver node's going to be like 160 something degrees, right? And your ejection's going to look like this. So if you're ejecting from the moon, you want the moon to be actually down here. And then you want to eject from the moon's orbit at about the same place so that you eject like that. Does that make sense? I don't think that you want the moon to be all the way over here. I think that you want the moon to be giving you the most prograde motion possible around Kerbin, because the moon is orbiting in this direction, right? You certainly don't want to try and eject from the moon here because the moon is moving against you. Does that make sense? Because the moon is going this way, and you're going to have to make up for that before you even start your ejection burn. All right? And if you're down here, the moon is moving this way already, and then you just need to do the rest of the ejection burn on top of it, because you get to take the moon's orbital velocity and add that to your ejection velocity to escape the system. So I think that's the right way to do it. And I think that this, I don't know that you're going to put it at exactly, like say it was 160 degrees. I don't know that you're also going to put it at 160 degrees here, because the amount of delta V required to break the moon's SOI is going to be slightly different, and it's also not going to take into account the motion of the moon. So you're going to have to play with that. I think those angles are going to be off a little bit, and usually the transfer calculators do not take into account the motion. Like, you can't do a transfer plan from the moon to Duna, because the moon is in the child SOI of Kerbin. So I think you're going to have to play around with this placement a little bit. But I bet you get it done for less delta V than plotting the same thing from low Kerbin orbit, and I bet you the angle's not exactly the same. The most important thing is make sure the moon is not up here. The moon is not going this way. You want to eject in the same direction as the motion of the moon, so that you add it's the same thing as not taking off to the west. Right? When you launch, if you're going retrograde, you're taking off to the west. You have to cancel out the rotation of the planet. You have to overcome the rotation of the planet. But if you take off to the east, you get to add the rotation of the planet to your orbital velocity. Same story here. You want to add the rotation of the moon, you want to add the orbital velocity of the moon to your ejection, right? That one's way out there. I'm going to move on. Let's stick with the ore stuff, but hopefully that helped you out really quickly. If you have a follow-up question, put a follow-up question, but I'm going to keep on with ISRU here. Okay? I'm going to keep on with ore. And we're going to get to that. Dr. Mr. Lazo, we'll get to how we scan for ore, all right? Question, should I put the ISRU on the lander and shuttle the fuel into space, or ISRU on the space station? Okay, we already answered that one, and I would put the ISRU on the ground and then shuttle fuel up and down without carrying the ISRU equipment, is what I would do. Okay, that's a question. No, if you have a question, put question at the beginning. Like, if you want to address a question to me, I ask that you put question in there specifically. If it just highlighted all question marks, then I would get a lot of back chatter where y'all are talking to each other, or you're asking things that you don't actually need me to answer. So it is like the question is the tag that allows me to see that you have a question. Question, do you like mining on the poles so you get constant solar, or you just choose a spot with good ore and enough electricity to last through the night? Thailand, I typically go for the richest ore field. I typically go for whatever the richest ore field is. So that's what I want to do with the ore field. I go for the richest ore field, and if it's on the top of the planet, like the poles where you get more solar power, that's good, but I just try to make it so that we have enough battery power to last through the night, or come up with other ways to power the craft. And then how do I know where the best place to drill is? So that we're getting into those questions about how do we scan for stuff. Remember, if you have a question for me, start your chat with the word question. That will indicate to me that you are trying to ask me a question, okay? And it goes into the queue, and I'll answer it. So did we not cover anything else here? We talked about getting the ore, heat management, storing the fuel, ideas for flying up and down, yada yada yada. And did I miss anything else here? Try going from the moon into an elliptical to low curve and so you eject a periapsis. You could certainly do all sorts of stuff. Going back to that, you could certainly go all stuff with that. Electricity. Okay. Electricity. Besides just, I just slapped some batteries on there. So how can we make this work with our electricity? Let me put my heat management back on. That's a good one. So we'll put our 2 radiator panels back on like that. And how can we get electricity for this? How much electric charge do we need? So nominally, we sort of plan for the maximum here. And if we go into here, we can say, okay, each drill is going to take 22.5 per second. Each drill takes 22.5 per second. And each convertitron is going to take 30 per second per thing that you're running. Don't be lazy. Type out the word question. Last karma. That actually isn't going to get caught up in the queue because you didn't type question. You typed quest. The queue literally looks for the word question. So, where was I going with that? This convertitron, blah, blah, plan for the max. Oh. The thing that I was going to illustrate really quickly is this. Look. The processor, the convertitron, I don't want to retract the drill, but I guess that drill's going to retract now. You can actually run it multiple times, right? Let me deploy this drill, see if we fall over. Now we're good. The whole thing's like shaking, which is kind of cool. Start the surface harvester. Okay. Right now I'm using like 1.4 per second. I need to activate these radiators as well. Just activate everything. Make sure we activate them all. So look at this. See, there's 4 different buttons here. There's start ISRU, liquid fuel and oxidizer, start ISRU monoprop, start ISRU liquid fuel, start ISRU oxidizer. You can actually run multiple processors at a time. So if you start ISRU, that takes more electric charge. You can actually see our electric charge go way up to 3. But I can also start that, and it takes even more fuel. So each processor, more electric charge, each processor pulls that amount of heat and that amount of electric charge per processor. And I can certainly do LF plus ox and liquid fuel and oxidizer, and I can triple my output or whatever that comes out to be, but I'm still going to have to deal with more heat. See how everything is... Oh, it's not overheating. Well, that's confusing. I thought that might make it overheat, but apparently it's only one set of heat output, but different electric charges. Curious. I know I just sort of bounced off that. You can run multiple processors at once. I can't run this because there's no place to store the monoprop. But apparently, these radiators are still able to cool down the heat. Yeah, it is missing ore. Maybe that's what it's doing. Maybe now that it's missing ore, it only runs one processor. That might be what it is. Let's let it build up some ore first. I'm actually going to give it a day or two to build up the ore. Okay, now we have 538 ore. So now let's see if it actually uses more heat. Is that empty? No. Okay, so start ISRU. And that's going to heat up. And then it's going to hit the max. Good. And it's actually outputting liquid fuel and oxidizer per second. So good. And then if we start these as well, it instantly starts to overheat. So I'm thinking that each one of the processors generates that much heat. You can see it using the ore. You can see it using the electric charge even faster. But they're starting to overheat now because the radiators aren't for this unit as a whole. The radiators are for each one of these processors that you're running. So for each one of these processors, I would need another one of these radiators. This is 200 and each processor uses 200. All right. Okay, good. Good. So if we wanted to run that full tilt, we would need to put these on in 4x symmetry like that, and then we'll have our landing gear hit them, I guess. Whatever. The other thing, how can we deal with electric charge? Oh my gosh. How can we deal with electric charge? We can generate electric charge. And of course, the best way to generate your electric charge is going to be the Gigantor solar panels. If each one of those processors, when it's running at maximum efficiency on a rich ore field, takes 30 electric charge per second, we could be running 90 electric charge per second processing liquid fuel and oxidizer. If we do that, can we power it with a solar panel? That says we get 24.4 per second. How does that math work out? 90 divided by 24.4. You would basically need 4 large solar panels to run 3 processors at a time, or 3 independent processes on a single part, right? So you would need to put 4 of these solar panels on. But we're not even running the drills yet. And how much are the drills? The drills need 22.5 each. And these output 24. So you need 1 solar panel per drill. So for 3 processes and 2 drills, you would need 5 solar panels on top of this thing. I mean, that's 6 solar panels, but whatever. Not really the right way to do that because they couldn't track correctly, right? Squad really made it this complex, or at least made it really hard to understand from tooltips and instructions. I completely agree with that, yeah. It's like overclocking it, nice. And I will, Hellion, yeah, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Transferring the fuel just to be refueled. We'll need to design the refinery, and we'll need to have some way to transfer the fuel between the two. Yes. But why couldn't I use the smaller solar panels? Because they barely output any electric charge. Let's just say that we're only going to use 1 processor and 2 drills. So that's 30 plus 22.5 times 2. And then whatever the radiators. Remember, the radiators take electric charge as well. So go over to the heat. That's 1.5 per minute. So that's not very much electric charge, but you do have to take that into account. It's going to be less than 0.1 per second electric charge, right? 24.4 per drill? 22.5 per drill is what mine says. 22.5 is for the drill. It was 24 for the solar panels output. So you always own a little bit of extra overhead because you're going to run the radiators, you're going to run probe curves, you're going to run other things, right? So this means that we would need 4 big radiators in order to do this. I'd put 4 big solar panels on it, right? And 4 big solar panels are going to give me, what is that, 40, 70? Just call it 75 for now. 75 electric charge per second, okay? If I try to do that with these little panels, these panels only do 1.6 per second each. If the game would allow me to point at them, 1.6 per second each. And if I try to use these to get 75 per second, 75 divided by 1.6, I would need 47 small solar panels to run 2 drills in a processor. I don't want to spam 47 of those. These get a little bit more. These get 0.3 per second. Oh no, that's the small one. Sorry. You certainly wouldn't want to use those. These get 2.8 per second, so not quite double of what that does, but you're still looking at 20 of these panels or so. 25 of these panels in order to get 75 electric charge per second. A big mining base will need a solar farm. Plan accordingly. Yeah, exactly. So, what other options could we use? Could we use RTGs? Each RTG only puts out 0.8 per second. So if I'm trying to run 75 electric charge divided by 0.8 per second, I would need almost 100 RTGs to run my refinery. No. You're not going to put it, I mean, you could if you want. You can do whatever you want. But 100 RTGs is way too many RTGs to use. So there's one more thing. I mean, technically you could use engine alternators. There's no reason that you couldn't burn fuel to make electricity. There is a reason. It's a dumb idea. But you could totally come over here and you could have fuel tanks and you could use engine alternators to actually generate electric charge. So if we were to grab like a T30, right? A T30 can output 7 per second. A T30 can put out 7 per second. So I would need 11 or 12 T30s in order to run my refinery. That even comes out nicely. You could put these on with a 6x symmetry times 2, and then you could just slap T30s on. Everybody sees the problem with this, though, right? 12 T30s would consume 7.105 liquid fuel per second in the oxidizer to mass. So you're looking at what? You're looking at 12 times 7.105. I would consume 85 liquid fuel per second, an oxidizer to match, in order to produce 0.45 liquid fuel per second. So you're not going to use the alternators on engines in order to power your refinery. That's just a dumb idea, okay? That's a dumb idea. Just don't even load that up. But there is one more way that we can use liquid fuel and oxidizer to create electricity, and that's going to be the fuel cells. So the fuel cell arrays, this actually takes 6.08 liquid fuel per hour to generate 1.5 per second electric charge. That's not very much. We'd still need to spam these in order to run it off this, but we've got these big ones. 18 electric charge per second generated by 0.02 fuel and 0.02 oxidizer, probably oxidizer to match there. So to get 75 electric charge, 2 of those would be 30, 4 of them would be 60, 5 of them would be 75. So if we put down 5 of these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 5 units, and I would probably actually put 6 on, those 5 units would consume 5 times 0.02, which is 0.1. This is what's really going to bake your noodle. It'll be 5 times 0.02, which is 0.1, in order to generate, if we're at a good ore site and our drills are operating efficiently and we've got all our thermal stuff taken care of, we can generate 0.45 liquid fuel per second by spending 0.1 liquid fuel per second and using them. What? Huh? The fuel cells consume fuel less quickly than the power it takes the refinery to make the fuel. I don't see this ever actually working this way in real life. Somehow, cracking the ore into fuel and oxidizer takes less energy than you can get back out of that fuel and oxidizer using the fuel cell. I don't I mean, I guess I don't know. Is that illegal according to physics? Jaguar, I don't know, okay? I didn't make the game. I didn't program that part. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You actually do, in real life, you extract all the oil, but it's not oil that we're using here, right? We're not using oil. We're using ore. Whatever the ore is, and we're getting liquid fuel and oxidizer out of it. And if you're getting liquid fuel and oxidizer, it's pretty close to... I don't know. I don't think that it's the same as oil. Everybody's always like, oh, well, that's how oil works. Well... It's not oil that we're getting because we don't then convert oil into something else, right? I guess we do convert oil into energy, but we don't crack the oil. We basically just boil the oil and we separate it out into different pieces, different densities is really all that you're doing there when you refine gasoline. And it's not the same as generating, like breaking the molecular bonds, I guess, is the right way to say it. That's my problem with it. It's not, like, oil is a different thing. I understand how oil works. I grew up in South Texas, lived next to a refinery my entire life. Like, I understand how oil works, but taking oil, or taking ore and cracking it into different elements, separating it out, whatever, I'm not sure. Mystery goo oil, it's like, I don't know. I mean, who knows what it is? Who knows what it is? Is it If it was uranium, I would believe it. I would believe that you could get more energy out of uranium than it takes to mine uranium, right? Nuclear energy is ridiculously efficient when it comes to that, from a waste perspective and from an energy output for energy put into perspective. Like, nuclear energy is fantastic, but making liquid fuel, so some sort of kerosene based, and getting oxygen out of the rock, I don't see how that would work here. Unless everywhere you go, the natural state of the ore fields in the Kerbin system is that it's some sort of suspension, something that has an oxidizer built in, like physically, with a liquid, like some sort of, I don't know. I have no clue how that would work here, right? The industrial process has to be positive power. It considers use this technology. Well, not necessarily the Zeppelin 2. Like, you can transport one thing into something else using different resources. Like, if you need gasoline for the car, you can run a factory. You can run something. There's no such. You don't run a gasoline power plant to make gasolines for cars, right? So technically, it doesn't always work out that way. It's oxyite. Yeah, it's oxyite or something. My big question is that it's sort of weird that in Kerbal we're getting two resources out. If we were mining uranium, or we were doing explodium or some mythical thing that just turns into fuel, maybe that's what the ore is made out of. But getting an oxidizer and a liquid fuel out of the same thing for less energy than you get out of it's just sort of weird, because it seems like a molecular change as opposed to just a physical change. Because if I'm not mistaken, y'all correct me, but refining oil is mostly physical changes where you're just sort of boiling it and getting off different densities of things that come out of the oil. Explodium, yeah. Not that we don't add other chemicals or whatever to it. But long story short, you can use fuel cells, because the power output of the fuel cells is not as much as, or the power output of the fuel cells will not consume all of the liquid fuel and oxidizer you make, as long as you're in a rich ore field, right? You need to be in an ore field that actually is above a certain percentage concentration. This stuff, we're gonna have to get flying some things. So just a second. Okay. I think we're fine. Any other questions on this? We talked about mining at the poles. Best place to drill. We're going to get to that. Transferring fuel to the ship to refuels. So the next thing we need to do, let's figure out how we can actually find where this oil is, or this oil. Now I'm saying oil out loud. Where this ore is. Okay, so we're gonna build a new refinery. We're not gonna do this. Let's delete all this stuff. And let's go and look at how we can actually find out where the ore is. Okay? Let's go check that out. So this is where we start to get into the science experiments, or the science instruments. Because there's a couple things on here that we're going to need. Is it under antennas? Yeah, it's under... Where'd they put it? There's one. Where's the ground truth? There it is. Okay, so there's different sites. All right, I found it. And I guess the other one is under... No, it's right there. All right. So there are 3 different phases to finding ore concentration. If we go out here, and we're going to look at Minmus or something like that, right? Let's go just bring up Minmus on the map. So we scroll out, and we look at Minmus right here. Oh, that craft's going to Duna. I'm like, what is that craft doing? It's like, I think it's going to Duna, or that's a comnet, or... Yeah, that is the craft going to Duna right there. And the comnet is talking to the craft that's going to Duna. Sorry. So imagine Minmus, right? What the game does in terms of where you can find ore, resources, whatever, it breaks it up into biomes, if I'm not mistaken. Last time I checked, it was by biomes. And all that means is that, you know, this is like the greater flats on Minmus. All this area is the greater flats. And the greater flats are going to have some concentration of ore there. And I'm just going to say it's like great, good, okay, or bad, all right? Let's not worry about numbers. But this may have great ore concentration. And then up here in the Midlands or whatever this is, this may have poor concentration. And all the minlands all over Minmus are going to have poor concentration. There's lots of minlands all over Minmus, right? And this over here may be a different flat. And this different flat may have no ore in it. And then up here at the poles, this may have okay ore. But the biomes on the planet, or moon, or whatever, all have their different concentrations. And it re-rolls your concentrations when you start a new save. So every time you create a new save game, it's going to be different, or it can be different. One time the greater flats might be great, and another time the greater flats may have no ore concentration at all. And another time the poles may be okay, and the next time you start a new game, like you create a new save or whatever, the poles could be fantastic or the poles could be nothing. Every time you start a new save, the biomes for all the different bodies in the solar system get re-rolled for ore. If I'm not mistaken, that's how it used to work. I think that's how it still works. I haven't seen any news on that, I don't think. So, we need to get over here to Minmus, and we need to figure out which biomes have good concentrations of ore, right? So the steps to do this is first we want to get to Minmus, and then we want to find out on a wide scale like where everything is. And then we want to start looking at each scale a little bit more closely. And then we actually want to land on the ground and figure out exactly how much ore there is in each specific place. So we start off by building a scan satellite that needs to scan the entire planet, right? And that'll be one part. We're going to put a survey satellite up here in orbit that's going to scan all of Minmus. And when we get the satellite with the specific scanning dish on board, the game will say, okay, good, you've scanned Minmus. Well done. You have to be in a specific orbit in order for it to work, right? Then we can put a detailed, it's almost like a strategic scan and a tactical scan, right? We can then perform a more tactical scan. And the tactical scan will give us more information on the ore down here. But we can't do that next until we actually land something on the ground. And I'm sort of messing this up. It's been a while since I've done this. Because we actually have to land a little unit on the ground to ground truth. Literally scoop up a sample of dirt and test it out with this little ground truth unit in order to use the tactical scanner on the rest of the biome. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Does that make any sense to anybody? If I'm not mistaken. All right. Step 1, strategic scan. Big dish up around the planet. Step 2, land and ground truth it. And then step 3, the tactical scanner can allow you to see the concentrations in the rest of the biome. Because I guess here's the part I didn't say. Okay, this is what's not making sense to me. This biome may be great, but that still means that over here it may be at 98%, and then down here it may be 90%, and over here it may be 85%. But great is everything that's up above a certain level. So you can still look around in this specific biome to try and figure out where the highest, most dankest concentration is. Everywhere in the biome will be pretty good, but there will be parts that are best. That's what we missed. And so you use this step 1 scan to say, okay, that biome is great. Let's go check it out. And then you land step 2 and you sort of do the little surface sample scanner thing to get ground truth. And then once you do that, you can use that to talk to the tactical satellite, and you can look all over the biome to try and find the bestest place to get the ore from. The right thing to do here is just to build it and launch it, I think. I want only the dankest ore. So let's go and design a mission that can do that. MC Provided does not care too much about biome. Greater flats gradient is 4 to great once. 0 to poor other times. The heat map of ore never correlates to the biome map. With ScanSat you see... Wait, ScanSat? Is that a mod, Less Karma, or is that something else? Are you talking about ScanSat the mod there? Because I can't tell you much about ScanSat. I haven't used ScanSat a lot because it's in the stock game. You know? So. I'll show you the tactical scanning. Yeah, I don't have a lot of information on what ScanSat's doing these days. So I'm not exactly sure what ScanSat would do. So the mod. The scanning satellite, right? This is just a body that we can put things on. And we can go down to utility. Nope, we can go down to science. And science is what's going to give us all of our different scanners. So the big strategic scanner is this M400 or M700 survey scanner. This is the strategic scan right here that we use to figure out which biomes are great and which biomes are bad, right? So our strategic satellite needs to have this on it. This little narrowband scanner, this is sort of the third step, right? And the narrowband scanner is what allows us to look at ore, like make a map of the ore in a biome. But this scanner only works, last I checked, if I'm not mistaken, this scanner only works after we've landed a surface scanning module down on the surface. This is step 2. And it doesn't, it's sort of weird. It's like, oh, well, why don't you use this to see where it's good, and then you use this to sort of narrow it down, and then you use this to find an exact spot, but you use this first, and then you land this, and landing this enables this. This is the tactical scan. Does that make sense to everybody? I know this gets confusing, and they made this a lot more confusing than it needs to be. But our goal here is going to be to get this in a certain orbit around the planet, land this in a dank biome, and then use this to see where in that biome is the best spot without having to drive this on a rover all around. This actually, I feel like this is more confusing than it needed to be. So how can we do this? We want this to land, so this is going to be on a separate thing, right? We're not going to have this here. We're going to put that on like a little rover or something that lands, right? Yes, the magic ore hexagon. 0 calibration on the narrow scan, something like that. Swedish EOD. That's sort of what it's supposed to be. Yeah. This thing was just due to the unlock hierarchy, and the narrowband essentially replaces it late game. Lothian, I don't think that the narrowband works until you land a ground truther. I don't know. We can see, but I don't think the narrowband works until you get ground truth from the biome. I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's go see and make sure that I'm right on that, because it's been a while since I've done this. So the other things that we're gonna need: probe cores, The scanner could be on the refinery. Yeah. Look, let's put it together and take it out and make sure that we can get it working the way we want it. I'm gonna put a little probe core on it, like that. We'll put that on the probe core. We'll put some battery packs in here or something. It's just all the normal stuff that you're gonna put on a satellite, right? That seems legit. Let me bring that up just a bit. This looks slightly nicer. I like it. We're going to need an engine on it as well. And we'll calculate how much delta V this has. So on satellites, you really don't need much more than a spark. Probably cooler if we do this. That's not cool. Also not cool. I thought there was a fuel tank that went down to that size. I guess not. I guess it's the cargo bay thing or whatever. 'Cause that's not it. No, those are it. Yeah, it's probably just this thing. Payload. Take the shroud off. We could put communications or something in there. So that is 2884 delta V, but we still need solar panels and stuff. So let's put... It doesn't take a lot of electric charge to run this thing. Science. Scanning time 5 seconds. It doesn't even really say that it needs a lot of electric charge or anything. Minimum altitude 25,000 meters. Maximum altitude a lot. So you do have to put it up above a minimum altitude. This is some math you have to do. Just go send this out to Minmis and call it a day. Solar panels. So where's the long straight solar panels? There you go. Turn on angle snap. That sort of looks like it could block the solar panels, doesn't it? Like maybe if we're putting that thing on, we should put it on like this. Or we could just do it like this. That looks cool.
Welcome back to the Academy.
That actually looks really cool. It's too much power. Well, I appreciate the 9 months. Wish I had more time to watch, but thanks for keeping it going. Thank you for keeping the sub going there. Well, I appreciate the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you very much. That is a cool looking satellite. Did I miss anything? It doesn't have much of a reaction wheel on board, but that should be enough for it. It's got 1800 delta V, which is more than enough to get out there and do station keeping. It's actually a lot bigger than it needs to be. The antenna, let's put an antenna on board. We could actually put a... Oh man, my nose started itching all of a sudden. Jeez. This antenna is probably not going to be long enough. But we'll put one antenna there. I'm going to put a dorsal battery on it too, just because. There's a dorsal battery. And what else were we going to put on? Oh, we have lots of electric charge. A larger antenna was the other thing. This antenna looks cool, and it's going to fold down nicely. I could pretend that actually comes out of there. Even though it doesn't look like it comes out of there, I'm just going to let it come out of there. Once again, though, it's talking directly to the... it's talking directly to the back of the dish. Let's fold it down this way. Hey, that's cool. Look, we can just make it come out of that little slot. Nice. All right, so a basic satellite. It has the antenna, it has electric charge, it has a reaction wheel because it's in the probe core. It's got plenty of fuel, 1600 delta V. And this is what we would need to deliver it to be our strategic scanning satellite. So I'm actually going to just do this real quick. Is that the root node? And we'll just call this our ORSAT bus. Take that off. Save this as a subassembly real quick. And call this our SAT bus is fine. ORSAT bus. Like that. So this is our strategic SAT. Like this. Let's reroute that. Or sat strat. And then I'm also going to make one that has a narrowband scanner. And why am I making two satellites? Just to illustrate the difference between them, right? So I'm going to grab this thing under science. And let's put the little narrowband on top of it like that. This is going to be our ORSAT TAC. Or TAC ORSAT, basically. ORSAT TAC. Tactical ORSAT. And the last thing we need is actually going to be a lander. So we could do the same thing, I guess. There's no reason that I couldn't do that and put the ground truth unit and some landing legs on it. Whoa! Incorrect. So could we, like, how much delta V do we have if we put landing legs on it? Maybe only 3x landing legs. That sticks down a little far for that purpose. For a lander. The lander, I'm going to tuck it up in a little bit more like this. It's like a really sad R2-D2. Fashion souls? What are you talking about? Basic fashionable satellite fashion is at least as important as the mission. I mean, that's true. Oh, no. Because if you do that, then you get this going through. Not ideal. Well, we'll just put one of them on the ground. How's that? Oops. Oh, wow. The other satellites have that on there. We need to get rid of that extra. Because this is actually going to need to talk up instead of down. So, you know something? We'll just do this. We'll just put a dish pointing up like this. Haha! Those antennas on top. I mean, I could just put that like that. I think that's fine. And then we need if this one's gonna land, we should put a bigger reaction wheel on it, just to make it a little bit easier to land. Put that on top. Tuck it in so it looks nice. I should probably put different solar panels on it as well. So that's more of a Minmus lander looking design. Can I make it look industrial? Oh, nice. That's actually quite nice. That's 2000 delta V. It's plenty of electric charge. I just need to slap some solar panels on it. This would be fine. See if we can make this work. Not nearly as much electric charge on this thing. I like it. Can I like it? Can I make it look more industrial? Oh, nice. Look, if you can't make something fashionable, why make anything at all? Oh, it's like a flower. I mean, that's kind of cool. Maybe it's not the best way to do it, but it looks cool. I like it. But we need the scanning device. Don't forget this thing. We need the ground truth scanner. This thing, surface scanning module. Not that many of them though. I don't know why it has a Fram air filter on it. Can I? Yeah, there we go. It's not really sticking off the side very well. I'll move the dorsal battery. It just has to look nice. Or else it won't work. Kidding. How's them apples? Except that might confuse people because there's no part in the game that has a green light on it like that. Bah. There's the dorsal side. I'm okay with it. And we have our little scanner. So now we have our 3 different types of satellites, right? We have our strategic scan, we have our ground truth scan, we have our tactical scan. So let's grab this and put this as a subassembly over here. The ORSAT sat strat, the ORSAT tech, and the OR lander, or 2D2, or whatever you want to call it, right? Now, you could put this on a car that could drive around as well. You could put it on a rover, you could have a Kerbal fly it down, whatever. It's a dorsal oil filter. Oh, we don't need 2 of those antennas on there. We only need 1. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to put 2 antennas on it like that. To balance out the stuff on the other side. Okay. So now we have our ORSAT. This should land, and it's got 2000 delta V, so we can hop around some as well. So start that retracted. Make sure we save this over the prop subassembly. Or lander. Delete. And then I need to grab these as well. I need to grab the strategic satellite. Because it had an extra antenna on it, I think. Yeah, see that extra antenna? There we go. And that was our strategic satellite. And then I need to do the same thing for the tactical satellite. Has that extra antenna in there. Okay. I hope I didn't forget anything. Tactical satellite. So now we just need to get these out to MinMIS. So we'll design a new spacecraft here. And I want something that can deliver these things. Let's... nozzle to nozzle docking. Yes, it was refueling it. Or lander bloom. Oh my gosh. Should have been. That's actually not bad. Or lander bloom. Nice. I'm just going to design something that looks cool here. And most of them should be about the same size. Do y'all want something that carries them in a cargo bay? Or would you rather have something that carries them exposed on the outside? I want to see how big they are. Yeah, it looks like they may be a little bit too... No, that would be really close to fitting. Well, the other one won't fit if we try to put them in a cargo bay. Always cargo bay. Did I make them small enough to fit? Because I wasn't thinking about this when I was building them. Did I make them small enough to fit in like this? They may be too wide to fit in this. Yeah, the solar panel array actually makes them too big to fit into that. Drat! Make smaller satellites, y'all. Nothing useful fits into a Mark II. I disagree. Because you want to know what fits in a Mark II that's relevant to what we're talking about right now? If you need to hide a big deploy dish on a mothership, like a strategic scanning dish on a mothership, you can build this into the mothership. And you can leave it deployed like that. And then when you get to your target destination, I mean, clearly I need to clean it up a little bit, right? But when you get to your target destination, the side of the mothership can just open up and expose the strategic scanning set. Anyways, but yes, it's very hard to fit useful things inside of these cargo bays. Now I just want to hem and haw about how to build it. How to build it. Dang it. Let's just make a stack. I mean, I guess the stack is going to be pretty tall. Clearly, DOS is very strategic when it comes to spying on the neighbors. I see DOS's challenge accepted face. Let's not worry about this too much. What if we just do this? Can we fit all 4 satellites into here? That thing sticks out so far. It's so difficult. Get rid of the shroud. One of them takes up 2 units. Only DOS Fashion can come up with that. What? Okay, look, I'm just going to do this, all right? Because this actually should be kind of cool. If we have a central core made out of... Honestly, this doesn't even matter what we make it out of. I'm just going to do like a structural tube or something, right? Bear with me. This is the fashion part of the stream. Okay? And then we grab these pieces... Okay. That's a good start. And then we go over to the 2-unit cargo bays. Like that. And then we grab those pieces again. Come on, game. Flip over. Okay. That'll fit the satellite that we need. It may be way too much delta V. It may be extraordinary amounts of delta V, but I think that's going to fit our 3 satellites. And if we put this, like this piece can go on the top there. And then on the bottom, we're going to need some engines. It looks like it's going to explore another solar system. I mean, I could always put this on the bottom as well. See, that looks nice. And then once we're at the bottom, we could actually do this. We could have, I'm a fan of this piece. This is going to have like 80,000 delta V. Too much is not enough. There it is. Look, I'm just being a little hacky here, okay? I just need a nice... clean tailpipe on this puppy. Like that. So that I can slap a poodle on. Ooh, that one might be nice. Just put a KR2L. Actually, that's not terrible. Just a KR2L on the bottom. Take these off. That's not bad. No, alright, yeah, that looks sick. This is like we're coming to scan for your ore is what this is. But we'd really have to do it a different way. I mean, theoretically, you'd need to grab this piece. That's too small. You need to grab the big honking piece. Where'd it go? They turned it into a fuel tank, didn't they? It's like, I thought you were talking about how to deliver ore. What are you doing now? What does this have to do with ore scanning? Oh, that looks nice, though. Look how clean. That's so fresh and so clean. Right there. Except that this line doesn't really match. You really have to sort of tuck that line back a bit to get a smooth curve. That looks fantastic. That actually looks quite nice. Cosmetic space program. And it's always hard to do. God, how do you do this? Jeez. Same thing, I guess. We just grab this piece. It doesn't really need a big docking port on the front. Why wouldn't it have a big docking port? I need to find... Oh no. Oops. There you go. It just needs to be clean, is all I'm saying. Oh, that looks nice. All right, where's that coupling? Dude, drag that in so that it's nice and cool. Can you do different colors here? Oh, I think I like the orange better though. Look at that. Man, that looks like it's ready to just scan for some ore. Doesn't it? That thing. Just crash the rocket and destroy the useless planet. We need a line of stitches on the space football. But we had 3 satellites, and now we have 3 satellites. Like, we could come over here, and we'll just use these docking ports, because I guess they turn into a tug or something, right? And let's make those docking ports back like that. And then we're going to need the strategic scanner. Oh, wow. What? It's the end part that makes the satellite so long. This is just not necessary. Jeez. That's also not correctly sized. Looks much better and fits much better that way, doesn't it? Doesn't it look nice? It's going to fit and everything. I will strut it in, though, so we'll have some strategic strutination going. Just attach it right there to the solar panel. It's fine. Let's attach it to that, maybe. That actually looks... It's almost an SSTO. It can't quite be an SSTO, but it's really close to being an SSTO. This needs to be in a separate thing. Like that. And did we... Oh, we put too many satellites on, so we need to just put this satellite on in 1x symmetry. Like that. And then we'll go over here, and we will grab our tactical satellite and put it there. And then we will grab our lander and put it there. They should be roughly the same size. Perfect. Solar panels are known for their structural strength. And I'm just going to just attach this in like this. No big deal. Not rocket science. This thing here is super small, but you know something? I'm just going to strut it in like that. And so now we have an ore scanning mission that has the wrong amount of delta V. Where's this engine? Needs to be in its own stage. Why does it not think that that has any fuel? Because I dragged the wrong thing down. Why does that think it has 84 meters per second of delta V? That's odd. Disable crossfeed. Oh, maybe it's because I use docking ports. Disable crossfeed. There you go. That's more like it. And then those tanks are going to be separated off because they're staged. That's what it was. It was disabling crossfeed is what we needed to do. Put that off its shroud. Make sure none of them have the shrouds because it's ugly. Turn the shroud off. We'll leave that part on there because it looks slightly different. And now we have 3 satellites packaged up to fly out there. Took much longer than anticipated. I need to put a probe core and stuff like that on here, so let's just grab a probe core. There you go. And I'm not going to worry too much about docking this. I guess we could add docking containers and RCS and stuff like that to it. Let's just, in the interest of time, add some reaction wheels here. So I'm going to try to put some reaction wheels on the back and see if we can make them look nice. Fashion lights. You need fashion lights as well. I'm always sort of torn as to whether I should put the reaction wheels in these little indentions. Let's see. Does not look straight at all. I mean, I'm not really in love with that. It's kind of cool though. I'll allow it. It's fine. Y'all okay with that? Nobody's gonna make fun of me because I can't make craft or anything. Look how clean that looks though. Fast forward through this part. Because see, now I can actually bring it out. And it looks like it's still connected there. See how fresh and clean that looks? That's pretty. That's pretty. We have that. We have reaction wheels. We'll need power generation and stuff. Solar panels, usually. Should we just give it a beard that deploys? One Gigantor beard. I think I'm gonna put fuel cells on it. Just because. Why not? Normally you wouldn't want to put an RTG. I could put some RTGs on it. Look at that. We could have 3 RTGs that stick out the side. Clipping is for hairdressers and DOS. There for DOS as a hairdresser. I mean, you could do that. You could put RTGs sticking out the side, or you could. It makes no sense to put RTGs in a cargo bay, but what are you going to do about it? Gun turrets? It needs some gun turrets, too. Technically, it does need nose cones there. There you go. It's fine, okay? Deliver this exercise for the reader to figure out how to deliver this to Minimus. But that's 2,500 Delta V. This can be its own upper stage, and it can be its own transfer stage. You need about 1,000 to get out to Minimus, and this should be fine. The RTGs really look like turrets on the batteries. Oh, they look like turrets. An RTG question. What is an RTG? An RTG is a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. It's something that generates electric charge using nuclear radiation. Decay, actually. It's a radioactive source that basically uses heat, I guess, to generate electricity or something along those lines. I'm pretty sure it's heat. But it's just something that generates power no matter what in Kerbal. RTG equals real life magic. Nice. So now we have a craft that has plenty of Delta V to get out to Minimus. And we just need to get it into orbit. I probably need this number to be 4,500 or 5,000 Delta V total. So let's just put a big honking stage on the bottom of it, right? Snag a decoupler. So many decouplers now. Yeah, buddy. Look at this. Where's the big tank? I may need to strut this together, actually. I'm not sure. It's its own fairing. What sort of engine could lift this off, and how many Delta V's would that give it? That's 1695. This probably needs to be 2500. So I'm gonna go Saturn V. I'm gonna put that there. We're gonna go all the way down to Saturn V class tanks. Dude, too big. And let's put this on the bottom of it. Yeah, that looks cool. That looks like a rocket. And how many Delta V's would this make? We'll grab our Mammoth engine. When in doubt, always go Saturn V. I like it. There you go. So our small ore scanning satellite is launched on the top of a Saturn V rocket. You could do this for a lot cheaper than this. You could do this for a lot cheaper, but that's 2,500 Delta V in the first stage. Oh, we're supposed to be looking at vacuum numbers. Basically, with this rocket design, you can scan anywhere in the Kerbin system. Because you're sitting on 3,000, like almost 3,000 Delta V once you're in low Kerbin orbit. And then you have Delta V and all the other craft as well that can slow themselves down. What's our thrust to weight ratio? 1.35. It's not bad. Thank you, Das, for the demonstration of why fairing delivery exists. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. Hey, Silky, how's it going? So long story short, that's 4,957 Delta V. It's got a thrust to weight greater than 1.0 on the pad. I usually try to get it up above 1.25. 1.5 is nominally what I look for. But we'll be fine. It's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and strut this thing.
Welcome back to the Academy.
And hope that that part of the rocket stage does not impact it? I'm not sure. Golden Goose, what's up, Golden Goose? 60 months. I'll take 12. You'll take 5 times 12, actually. I appreciate you, Golden Goose. Thank you very much for the continued support. This ore scanning rocket should be more than sufficient to get our ore scanning bits to Minmus. Shall we launch it? I'm naming it Overkill. Harder once you say it out loud, but whatever. This Overkill mission should be more than enough to get into Minmus orbit. So let's launch this out to Minmus real quick. Let's just launch to Minmus. That's almost as bad as your joke. This is like when I play the game. It's all good, Neuron Moon. If it looks crazy but makes it into orbit, it's still crazy, but I'm gonna just take it. Why does the ground look so weird? Huh. Anyways. Hibernation, I don't know. I don't know when we'll continue HC career. Standard launch profile straight up till 50 meters per second. We'll start to lean over. We've got 2,500 meters per second of Delta V and quite some burn time. 123 seconds, 2 minutes in the first stage. Second stage we'll take on, and the second stage is also the delivery ship. So that was just us tossing something together. Purpose of the mission is to deliver an ore scanning set of satellites, a lander, a strategic, and a tactical scanner out to Minmus so we can learn the different ways that these antennas allow us to scan and locate the dankest of ore sources on Minmus. So throttles up, panels locked, SAS is engaged. This is not a real launch. This is in sandbox, so there's no abort sequence or anything like that we need in Kerbal Hardcore. And we'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Our first launch of the day. A 1.38 thrust weight on the pad, continuing straight up until we get to about 50 meters per second. I'm pretty nerdy. Are you talking to me? Who are you talking to? Oh, wow. There's like some sort of graphics glitch going on. Y'all see that? And this is bone stock. Weird. Maybe my graphics card is going to fail. It's odd. I knew that it didn't look quite right. Something didn't look right. Folks, I'm going to show you the easy way to get to Minmus. I'm not going to try to get you to Minmus in any difficult sort of way. I'm just going to get you to Minmus the easy. Whoa, 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 whoa. The easy way. This thing is pretty shenanigan-y. I think these have way too much gimbal. You know something? The actual Saturn V's didn't gimbal the center engine. Jeez. That's okay. I've flown a couple rockets in my time. And I'll just squeeze it into orbit here. It's okay. It's okay. About a 45. Oh, what waggledy? Oh, oops. I forgot to strut that stuff. I'll take things every Kerbal player has heard for 500. We're not going to have as much problem once we don't have this big lever arm, but I really should have put some struts from these down to that. I forgot to do that. I did. It's, you know something, just go ahead and follow prograde for me. It may end up being way too waggly if we tell it to follow prograde. Damp that out. Simmer down. Nope. Nope. Uh-oh. We're galloping Gertie. I'm going to have to give it some randomized inputs to try and get rid of the resonance. Oh, no! Yep. It was galloping. So that's not how you do it. Round 2. Let's actually strut this stuff. We could have put auto struts on. That would have worked fine. All I want to do here is just do struts in 3x symmetry to tack weld these things together. Like that. And that will solve the craft. Hold, hold, hold. Luckily that was the simulator. You act like I'm not a real Kerbal player. Jeez. Alright. Overkill. Now strutted. That should have resolved the issue, folks. We should be fine. Maybe. Maybe not. The number of times I've launched something forgetting struts is literally incalculable. Throttles up, pens locked, SAS is engaged. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Same profile, much less Tacoma narrows, hopefully. And spaghettification, also don't want that. We just keep going straight up till 50 meters per second and continue flying on. That's already looking better. Look at that. That's already looking just fantastic up there. Well, Senator, we spent too much of our budget on gimbal. We don't have any left for tape. Let's turn that all the way down. It's probably going to fly nicer if we have those gimbals on this thing. These have a lot of gimbal, and you don't always need that much gimbal. So you can turn it down. Tack welds? Are you building this on a beach? Outside? It's not going to be able to hold pressure if you don't weld it in a proper environment. Jeez. That's like stainless steel welding 101. Gosh. Look, it's barely waggling at all now. It's almost like a welder told me that I needed to structurally strengthen this a little bit, and I didn't listen to him. All right, now we're looking good. Continuing on to Minmus. Continuing with our lean program here. Go ahead and click on that so we can see what our APO is going to be. Our thrust to weight is probably going to go through the roof. Yes, we're already at a 2.34 thrust to weight. So our time to APO is going to be going like crazy. I'm going to keep leaning over here. We're about to break 1,000 meters per second, it looks like. I'm just going to set the APO up to 100. 100 is fine. Someplace that what orbit is clear? 100, 99, something's up in this other orbit. 120. We'll go to 150 so we can see it. So we're just out of Delta V here. And the space egg has separated from the Saturn 3C or whatever stage that was that we just separated from. And the space egg will continue its merry way onwards into space. I like the flame on this engine. I'm sorry. I don't even care if it's not a real engine. I like the flame on this big honkin' engine, y'all. The KR2L has always been such a fantastic engine because it's easy to make a craft where the flame of the engine is longer than the craft, and that makes me happy. Even though the flame should really be spreading straight out to the sides here, I'm going up to a $150. $150. Ship it. It's even got a shock diamond, I know. What came first, the space chicken or the space egg? This would be amazing if you got proper thrust diamonds on that. Why is the flame overexpanded? Well, In no atmosphere, this engine should have a flame that looks like that, right? When there's no atmospheric pressure to make you get the shock diamonds and stuff like that. So it wouldn't, it just is a nice looking engine, but the flame is not that realistic. So this is the apoapsis. There are many others like it, but this one's mine. I'm just going to put a maneuver node at my apoapsis. I'm going to tell it to go prograde until I'm in a roughly circular orbit. Again, not rocket science here. This is orbital mechanics. And there we go. Apo 151. Perry 150. There's 150 by 150. Looks good. So we're going to get on orbit with over 3,000 delta V left. Not too bad. There's the reaction wheels working. The reaction wheel's not moving it very quickly. It's just shaking like crazy. Look at that. Looks like a concerned chihuahua in a thunderstorm. What is doing that? Oh Lord, it's launching. This isn't rocket science, because if it was, it would be easy. Nice. Alright, so it's just going to be a 13-second burn coming up in 5 minutes, because the KR2L puts out thrust for days. 2 minutes, 1 minute, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Okay. 9, 8, standby. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many licks does it take to get to the, you know the rest. All right. There's orbit. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. 0.7. Nice. I like it. I don't know what the KR2L is built on. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. 2L makes it sound pretty close to J2. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. So now we can actually fly this thing the rest of the way to Minimus. And the question becomes, how do we get to Minimus? Add stream marker. That's how. The question becomes, how do we get to Minimus, right? And Minimus is a little bit tricky because it's on a slight inclination. Remember back from our basics, inclination is the tilt of the orbit relative to our own orbit. And there's lots of ways that I could have got to Minimus. I could have launched in Minimus orbits. I could do a mid-plane correction. I can do lots of things, right? But let me show you the easy way. So because Minimus is inclined relative to the equator of Kerbin, and when I launch this thing, I put it into an equatorial orbit, which basically just means that we're orbiting the equator. Just we're not tilted, we're not polar or anything like that. We're just orbiting the equator. Again, not rocket science. It's orbital mechanics. Since Minimus is tilted, I can't just do a maneuver like I do to go out to the moon and say, oh, let's meet Minimus over here. If I put a maneuver here, and I say, okay, Minimus, I need to get up to Minimus. When I go prograde, whoa, okay, that's me ejecting. But when my Apo gets up there, even if I'm close to where Minimus is, the tilt of Minimus orbit is still going to make me miss it, right? Minimus is up here. And if I stay equatorial, I'm going to end up down here. Now, yes, I could do a mid-course correction, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of stuff I could do. But there's an easier way to get to Minimus. What I want to do, because Minimus is inclined, it has an ascending and descending node. And all that means, the ascending and descending node are the places where Minimus's orbit crosses my orbit, right? And you can see that. Do you see Minimus? Is that green tilted line? And then the equator is even with the moon there. You see how the moon is flat? The ascending and descending nodes are this dotted line. And if you zoom in here, you can see the ascending and descending nodes. And literally, all I need to do to get to Minimus, put a maneuver node at the opposite node, the next node that it's going to be at, right? What is this? Go away. Where did all these maneuver nodes come from? Why does that say maneuver node control is locked? Okay, I got it deleted. Game was just having a cow or something. Set Minimus as the target. Sorry, the game was being weird. Minimus is up here. I know that Minimus is orbiting in this direction if I'm looking down at the northern hemispheres of Kerbin. I know Minimus is going to orbit this way. And so what I want to do is put a maneuver node on the far side of the planet and meet Minimus right here. That's going to be my plan, right? So Minimus isn't really in the right place for this, but I see Minimus up here. I know Minmus is going to go this way, and I want to meet it right here. Okay? I'm going to put a maneuver node on the opposite side that I'm going to meet it. I'm going to go prograde until my apoapsis touches Minmus out here. I just need that to barely touch. Bink! Right like that. And you're like, Das, well, you're not meeting it. Like, when Minmus gets here, you're going to be over here. That's not you closing. That's not you rendezvousing Minmus. Right-click on the maneuver node and just wait in orbit. Wait in orbit. Wait. Wait. The more I wait, I'm just waiting for Minmus to get into the right position. There's the moon again. Sure, I'm waiting 5 days until Minmus is in the right alignment. But eventually... Bink! You get a Minmus encounter. The maneuver node's in 9 days, so I launched. Minmus was not in a great position to do this right now. But I can still get that encounter with Minmus literally by just not burning the node right now. All I have to do... And I'm trying to see if I can't get a better encounter. There. Because that's us sort of passing Minmus on the far side. And my maneuver node... That looks much better right there. Does everybody understand what I just did? All I did was put down a maneuver node. I set the maneuver up to touch the orbit, and then I said wait. And when I was telling it to wait, I was just saying, okay, give Minmus time to come around here. Minmus is going to be right here when I do the burn. And the amount of time that it takes me to go here is the same amount of time that it takes Minmus to go out that way. So we meet right there. I don't have to worry about inclinations. I don't have to worry about mid-course corrections. I don't do anything. I just put the maneuver node in a very specific place. Right there on the opposite ascending-descending node that it's going to be at next, and I just right-click and tell it to wait. I already said I could launch a Minmus inclination. I could do a mid-course correction. There's tons of stuff that I could do, right? But simple. I just want to do this. This is the easiest way to get to Minmus if you're trying to get to Minmus for the first time. And that's honestly not a really bad encounter. I don't even really need to clean that up very much. We could go to the maneuver node, bring up the editor, bring it all the way down. Just a little bit more prograde is going to get me closer to Minmus. I mean, look at that. That's down to 30. I'm not really going to be able to do ascending-descending nodes here yet, but that's okay. We're going to get into Minmus's SOI first. I don't need it to be in a polar orbit, but we're going to put some stuff into polar orbits, okay? We'll talk about polar orbits. For this, we don't need it in a polar orbit, do we? I don't think we need it in a polar orbit, unless they've changed something. Send up another spaceship that catches up with the football that changes its inclination. Easy. So let's do this burn. This is in 9 days, right? Again, we're just going to be hanging out here. We did put RTGs on it, yeah. ScanSat needs polar, but for which ore scanner do we need polar? Is the strategic scanner supposed to be in a polar orbit? Because does it say that anywhere? The 700 needs a polar orbit. Is that the thing that it doesn't actually tell you anywhere? Like it doesn't say in the tooltip or anything? Maybe it does tell you in the tooltip. But this is in 9 days. Let's get into Minmus's SOI and then we'll talk about it, all right? Whoa! Okay. All right. That's a lot of kerbaling. And then we came out of warp. Like that. Oh, we could try to scan Kerbal now. Yeah, let's try to scan Kerbal now. That's a good idea, actually. Not that one. We should have put lights in here and stuff. What was it, this one? No. What was this one? Let's see if we deploy this and try to scan Kerbin. We're actually just going to scan the inside of the bay. This is just a test. Yeah, sure, it hit the side of the bay, but let's see what it says. Perform orbital survey. You must be in a stable polar orbit between 60 kilometers and 1,500 kilometers. So there you go right there. Look. 60 kilometers and 1,500 kilometers. So this one does need a polar orbit. That's good. Does it cost electric power to open and close? Not really. No, it doesn't. It shouldn't cost anything to open and close. I don't think it does. It does cost some electric charge to perform the scan, I believe. Heck, let's look at our other stuff. If we try this right now, or surface too high, so I can't do anything with this. It does tell me my latitude and longitude, and it tells me the biome I'm over as well, which is nice. Oh yeah, the burn. Fine. We only missed it by a couple seconds. We're just going to min-miss. It's fine. Whatever. We'll get to min-miss eventually. We may have to clean up the rendezvous a little bit. Whatever. I'm pretty positive I didn't even pay attention to the burn. We may have to thrust limit this engine. Let me see how close we get. Yeah, no such thing as too much. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's the moon. Look, I literally just want to just hit min-miss at some point. It's going. It's going around. Okay, now I gotta get close. Bink! Okay, we still made it. Oh, hey, look, we're in a polar orbit. So for the big scanner, you're going to want to be in a polar orbit, accidentally, first try. But we can back that up a little bit if we want. But that's pretty polar, honestly. Pre-recorded, smelling like a rose, hacks. I'm gonna see if I can thrust limit this just a little bit. See if it works. I'm thrust limiting it so that I can get a little bit more polar of an orbit. Here is my plan. So let's go. Oh man, boom, orbit. A good teacher thrives on flexibility. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. We do want those satellites to be in a polar orbit when we're scanning for ore, right? Why do we want the satellites to be in a polar orbit when they're scanning for ore? And I know earlier I was like, I don't think you need it, but it makes sense to put them in a polar orbit. A, because the scanner requires it. B, the other thing. Imagine an orbit around the equator, right? You're sitting there and you're orbiting like this. And min-miss is spinning on its axis like this, right? And you have a very small patch of ground underneath you that you can land. Once we get to the ore lander, remember, we want to land this thing somewhere, and we have the one phase that actually needs to land in a biome. So if we're in an equatorial orbit, we're orbiting the equator, it's going to cost us a lot more delta V to land, I don't know, up at the pole, down at the South Pole. Anywhere that's not around the equator is going to cost us more delta V if we're in an equatorial orbit. If we actually put ourselves in a polar orbit, like we just did, like that, min-miss is still going to spin on its axis, like that, but we're going to go around and around, up and down. And if you think of it, right? If you think of it, wrong color. If you think of it, as min-miss is spinning around like this, and I'm in a satellite going around the top like this, you can sort of, I can't go all the way around, so you'll just have to bear with me. As min-miss spins and I go over this part of this orbit, right, because I'm going all the way around, but eventually I'm going to be able to see all of min-miss as it spins, because I keep going up and down all over the North Pole to South Pole, and it's going to spin, and even though I'm right here, I'm eventually going to scan the entire planet. And for the lander purposes, I'm also going to be able to target anywhere. I just have to wait until min-miss turns the right amount, and the target area is right underneath me, and then I go down and do my landing. Well, the target area is underneath my orbit is the right way to say that. But that way, if I go into a polar orbit, the rotation of min-miss allows me to hit the entire planet, as opposed to going into an equatorial orbit where all I can really do is land on the equator. Right? Maximize the surface area of the planet. It maximizes our coverage, our surface coverage of the planet, right? So this is going to come up in 10 days, 5 hours, 34 minutes. The next thing we need to do is put a maneuver node here, add a maneuver, and let's just go into our orbit like this. And I think what I'm going to do is capture into this higher orbit. Let's capture into a higher circular orbit and deploy that satellite. There's really no reason for that satellite to have its own fuel this way. But let's go over here, point towards this, and just time warp till we get out there and do that burn. What if a planet doesn't rotate? If it's tidally locked, it's still rotating. It's just rotating very slowly. I'm not aware of any planets that rotate because of how planets are formed. Right? I'm not aware of any planets that don't rotate. In the leading theory, Mr. Physics, help me out with this one. The leading theory, and I'm going to botch this, I think, but you have all sorts of pieces of junk that are going to make up the planet, right? The cloud of gas, the pre-solar disk, whatever, the planetesimals, whatever they're called, right? And these things have like a common center of gravity, and they're all going to start to slowly, over billions and billions of years, millions of years, however long it took, start to be attracted towards the middle, right? They all start to fall towards the middle, and they keep sort of just falling towards their common center of gravity. And when they get to the middle, they don't just hit and stick, right? As they fall together, they tend to miss each other a little bit, right? And then turn back around, and as the planet sort of coalesces from a cloud of stuff into an actual physical planet, since all the particles are never actually just sticking, like hitting and sticking together, they're constantly sort of missing, and they have this bit of a rotational inertia, right? And so I don't know of any planets that didn't have some sort of cataclysmic thing. I actually don't know of any planets that did have a cataclysmic thing occur that caused them to completely not rotate at all. That's my understanding of why planets rotate. It's all this angular momentum of everything sort of pulling together. It's almost like a skater having their arms out. When you have a cloud of gas, the skater has their arms out, right? And as the skater pulls their arms in, the cloud of gas is sort of collapsing around the center of mass there, the center of gravity, and that increases the rotation, the angular momentum, or whatever, if they have it. I guess it's not exactly the same because it's not already orbiting it, right? But yeah, I'm not a planetary scientist, astrophysicist, that sort of stuff. It's something about that. It's something about there's a little bit of rotational left whenever they miss, whenever they coalesce. What happens is once you reach a certain mass, space-time starts to curve and stuff starts to smash each other and heat up and coalesce, and the rotational inertia just builds and builds because it's proportional to mass. But where does it come from? It has to be coming somewhere, right? It comes from the fact that the things don't just hit the exact middle and stop completely. Like, there's still energy from their motion towards the center of mass that the energy has to go somewhere, and it never just hits and pushes the mass in one direction, right? Conservation of angular momentum. A wizard did it. A mosh pit. What? No. Anyways, some of these explanations, I'm pretty close. Initial angular momentum impacts. You've been told and understood all that about the moon. Gravity and small particle attraction causes rotation. Yes. Now explain it in lay terms. Because those are not lay terms. Even with perfect solutions, quantum effects would offset it. Okay, this is where we get to the point where I'm just going to burn the node in Kerbal Space Program, and y'all can talk about this amongst yourself. It's because it's never perfectly symmetrical. That's actually getting to make sense. Now explain it like I'm 5. Let's do the time warp here, y'all. Let's get out to Min-Miss and go into this parking orbit. Zoop. There we go, all the way up. Now, if you've approached Min-Miss and you didn't start off in a polar orbit, if you didn't set this up on the way in, you can set up a polar orbit right when you enter Minmus's SOI. So I'll show you that really quickly. Let's just go. There's the apoapsis. Minmus is catching up to us, and now we've entered. Oh, no. I can't show it if we go all the way down. Right? So if I had just entered Minmus's SOI, I could always put down another maneuver, and I could use that maneuver to get into a different orbit. And it's not going to cost me very much delta V when I do that. Minmus's gravity is so low and I'm moving so slowly. I could turn this into an equatorial orbit, a polar orbit, or whatever. Because of the way we're doing it, these are sort of rotated sideways. But what you can do if you've missed the polar orbit and you're sort of like halfway polar or equatorial or something like that, right when you enter the SOI, don't time warp past it like I did. Right when you enter the SOI, you can put down a maneuver node, and you can use normal and you can use radial to sort of get yourself into a pass over the top or bottom of Minmus instead of around the equator. That's something to remember, because I know I didn't really explain the polar orbit thing. But that's 62 by 61, so we'll go ahead and do this burn. Let's get pointed over that way and go. And y'all just roll with it on that. Quantum effects don't affect things like physical mechanics because everything is settings deterministic, which is why quantum only holds in atomic scales. Wait, are we talking about particles or planetary formation? I'm talking about planetary formation. Particles being expanded into planetary on a formational level. IR the round cow theory. What? The round cow theory of nebulas. Quantum mechanics does not hold in large-scale reference frames. This is why quantum and classic can't be correlated together. Nothing's 100% accurate. That's why it's a theory. I love the round cow theory. Assume a frictionless spherical cow. Wait, is that how that goes? Anyways, there are other people who can much better explain that stuff than me. I'm not going to try and, let's go do a month worth of research so I can explain this correctly. It's something about the way the particles come together that makes it rotate. Just toss that out there for you. So we're doing a capture burn here at Minmus, so we're capturing into a polar orbit, and it's up at 60 kilometers, right? Let's just do the time warp again. All these gifted subs, this is going to start playing gifted subs like crazy, y'all. Hang in there. Phoenix, I don't even know how much subs you just gifted, but it should start playing shortly. It's just delayed. That's 20 subs that Phoenix gifted the channel. I'm doing the burn. I appreciate you. 2, 1, ignition. Oh, we're still thrust limited. We're still thrust limited. It's like the notifier's not even going off for some reason. It's been going off, but it's not going off right now. And I left this thrust limited at 6% thrust, which is okay for entering orbit at Minmus, I guess. It looks like it's misfiring or something. Somebody put some hearts in chat for Phoenix. Phoenix gifted 20 subs to the channel. And to do that, that's like 20 subs times $5 each. So Phoenix, thank you so much for gifting all those subs to the channel. I really, really, really appreciate you. Y'all, look at this. Neuron Moon, Exurgent, Left Omega, Left Nut Omega, Lotharian Walfra, Spect TV, Sam G87, what is that? 3877, Rob Dog, C. Loomis, Skjonberg, Reflexin, Gabby DeCow, I don't know how to say that. Apulu Felgar, Game Coder Man, Lowtech 7083, Overseer, Sanguine Rogue, Graham Weldon, Pixel Mixer, Musukiel, welcome to the Academy. You have all got gifted subs courtesy of Phoenix, who said thank you for everything you do. Something along those lines. Where'd you say it, Phoenix? Yeah, thank you for all the help, and you can mute it if you want to. We're all good. We're just doing the burn here. Luckily, that was thrust limited, and it's just about to be done. But we are entering orbit around Minmus, and it's a polar orbit again. Something that's going over the north and south pole of Minmus. 2, 1, stop. Point 2, not too bad. So here we go. Now we have deployed our craft up above the north pole of Minmus, or we've circularized our craft above the north pole of Minmus. Let's find which one of these held the strategic scanning satellite. That's the tactical scanner. That, of course, is the lander, because it's always the last one you try. And here is the strategic scanner. And I'm going to deploy this strategic scanner up here, switch over to it, and you don't actually have to deploy it, I guess, but whatever. I'm just gonna boop my way out. Let's activate its engine. Huh. There you go. Turn a little bit more. And just fly out of the bay. I just activated the engine just a little bit. Like that. I think we have hit it exactly. I don't know. Don't jinx it. So this right here is our strategic scanning satellite. It has the big M700 scanner on board. And we are going to deploy all the things. And let's see if it allows us to scan Minmus. And we could have tried to scan Minmus while we were still attached to the big ship, right? But let's see if we can scan Minmus here. Perform orbital survey, yes! So we were at a high enough altitude and we were in a polar orbit, so now we were able to actually scan Minmus. And it transmitted the data back to Kerbin, which is quite nice. That's all you have to do. You literally just right-click and you just do perform orbital survey. And then there's the ore on Minmus, 4.855. And here's what we can do. If we click toggle overlay and go to the map view, all of a sudden we can see the ore concentrations on Minmus. Now, this is sort of difficult to see anything. It's like, wow, it looks like there's ore everywhere. Also, why is it the 80s? So let's go over back to our craft. That says monochrome and cutoff. So there is inverse. Let's see what that looks like. Aha! Not a lot of ore in here. Whatever's going there, that's not hot. Pretty good ore up here. Pretty good ore on a lot of Minmus, actually. Some ore up there. Let's go over here. We can also change the cutoff, right? So we can say we only want to find the ore fields that are better than 50%. And I can say cutoff plus, cutoff plus, cutoff plus, cutoff plus, cutoff plus. And then I can go back here, and now these are only the hot spots. I swear, if this is a save where there's no ore hotspots on it. Okay, so there is some ore on that flats. The greater flats don't have very good ore. These flats don't have very good ore. All of the ore is in terrain that's high. These flats over here are the only ones that have ore. Remember how I said every time you start a save? Of course, in the Helpdesk save, where we're trying to show how to build a refinery on Minmus, it doesn't work. I love these saves where there's no ore on the flats. There's a little bit of ore over here. Let's go up to like 80%. Is anything on Minmus 80%? Those flats aren't 80%. Even the poles don't have 80%. Jeez. So let's go up to 90%. There's a lot of ore on Minmus. It's just not in the flats anywhere.
Welcome back to the Academy.
Uh-oh, Phoenix. Guess what?
Welcome back to the Academy.
Now it's going to catch up and start playing. I am going to turn it down
Welcome back to the Academy.
just a bit, but now it's going to go. Change a few numbers in the seed. Of course, my Minmus refinery is not going to have any ore on the flats, but now you can see how we were able to scan and find the dankest of ore. There's 100% right there. Nothing cuts off at 100%.
Welcome back.
Take it back down to 90%, and there are multiple green ore fields. There's a lot of ore on Minmus. It's just not on the flats where we want it to be. So those one flats, where did they cut off?
Welcome back to the Academy.
I don't know that you'd have anything there.
Welcome back to the Academy.
Jeez. 70% ore.
Welcome back to the Academy.
Nope. It's like down to 50% ore to get the cutoff. So we got trolled in this save. There is no flat that has anything above 50% ore. So clearly we're going to, I mean, you could still make a refinery where there's 50% ore. It still works. You can still land on the flats. It's just that you won't generate fuel as quickly, right? So you can see 90% there. So we need to keep going. Let's talk about the lander for ground truth, right? We can build a refinery on a hill. Yeah, it's just so much easier on Minmus if you flatten it out. In the streams, it's gonna keep playing the notifiers there. You can change cutoff in the map view. Can't you get in there like an ore thing or something? Like right here, yeah. You can change the style right here, and you can change the cutoff by clicking on that little icon. So let me go over to corner cam. So there you can click on resources, and then there's ore, and you can change the cutoff right there, and you can also change the style and color, so you can see it a little bit better. The purple ore is actually pretty nice. And I guess if you go to a lower cutoff, there you go. So there's the whole planet with ore concentrations in different colors. You can play around with this right here. I just clicked on this. This is the ore, the resource map, I guess. And you can click on cutoff to only show the richer ore fields. And see right there, look at that, 30% through here. So that place would be a place to land for 30%, but it cuts off at 40%. There's a little bit in there, and it cuts off at 50 to 60% in these flats right here. This sort of person who solves this by putting drills in the mountains, actually building an ore pipeline down to the flats where it's easier to land and refuel. Nice, Manicat. So we'll figure out where we want to land. To start, let's try to land in here. Let's get this into the daytime, and then let's land underneath this. So let's just time warp. In fact, I think, can we get over that area? I'm going to put the mothership into a lower orbit first. So we'll leave this scanning satellite up here, but I'm going to put this into a lower orbit. Let's put this one down at 20 so that it's orbiting more quickly, so it goes over the target areas more frequently. All that means that the lower my orbit, the faster my orbital period, or the shorter my orbital period is the right way to say that. And the shorter my orbital period, the more I'll cross over each area, the more likely I'll be able to cross over the area that I want to land on, basically. So, FOD check, make sure we're not going to crash into that. Yeah, it's behind us by 1.9 kilometers. Let's do this. I'm going to put it down at like 20 or something. Oh, look at the narrow bend on the way down. And there's 20 right there. So we'll put another maneuver node down here and we'll circularize at 20. But again, we're still in a polar orbit, so we're still going to cross over all the different places that we may want to land, right? So the narrowband, if I activate the narrowband, this just tells me the ore surface average. So right now, it'll tell me my latitude and longitude, but this won't get me any more information. Like if I go to KerbNet access, it won't tell me. Well, no, look at that. It is still telling me the percentage. Oh. It doesn't know exactly what it is. So if I'm over a spot on Minmus, like say I want to say that's 9%. It says target 9.02%. But I wonder if that's true. I think what it's doing right now, I think when it says 9.02%, that's for the entire biome. So this doesn't mean that that specific place is actually 9.02. That means that this entire biome is 9.02. That biome's 902. That biome's 299. That biome's 427. That biome's 427. In there you got a 299 again. That's what it's telling me. So until I get ground truth, I can only see the percentage. And I know, okay, that looks like a good biome, But where is this? Like if I want to say ore field 9.02 right there, and we put down a waypoint, where is that waypoint actually at? So it says that that's a really rich ore field, but it's over on the edge. See that? And this must be the center of that ore field. Ore field 9.02. Yeah, but it still just says that that is 9.02, and it doesn't know exactly what it is. This is all vanilla. Yeah, Beniji, yes. How's it difficult? It depends on how you process it. So you could you could create something that has wheels that you could drive it around or whatever. But this is all stock right now. So you can use the narrowband before you have ground truth to see what the average for that biome is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that exactly where that waypoint is going to come out as 9.02. In order to find out exactly what it's going to come out as, we have to land the other lander there and run the ground truth. So let's delete that waypoint. And let's just go ahead and... I was going to look for the maneuver node is the next thing we need to do. So point this way and do the maneuver node. And folks, we've been going for almost 3.5 hours. I am going to have to cook some dinner here pretty shortly. So I think what we might end up doing for the help desk today is get the scanner on the ground, and then next help desk will actually build and land the refinery. That's probably the right thing to do. There's no treads or tracks, in stock. There's just the wheels in stock. So now I'm pointing this way. I've been watching the time here, and I'm right around the time that I was supposed to spend on this, and ore processing is a much longer conversation. So it may be the next 4-hour stream that we actually build and deploy the refinery. But let's get this landed so we can see exactly how the ground truth works. So step one, we've already done the strategic scan with the 700 scanner, right? And now we're just coming into a smaller orbit with our deployment vessel here. 40, 30, 20. There's the burn. Just a little tiny burn here. And circular enough for me, I think. So now I just want to bring the lander down somewhere, and let's target, what was that cutoff that was, oops, I just clicked off the game. Haha. What was the target that had like a 40% cutoff in a flat? Where was that at? There's a flat that actually has a cutoff. And look at this. We're already about to orbit over that. So we can land right here right now. It's going to be nighttime, though. We'll wait until it becomes daytime. I'm just going to time warp. We're going to go round and round. And I'm going to wait until this flat area here is under our orbit. So one more orbit. Here we are. That actually looks good. So this is our other place, and we can deploy the lander from here and land in this biome. So let's deploy the lander. Decouple the node. Switch over to control the lander. Whoa, 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 whoa. Get it pointing out. Activate its engine. And have it fly out. I needed to get its dorsal side. This is like cry baby cry sort of mode here. All I want to do here is land. So I'm going to point retrograde and see if I can't put it down here. We'll put down a maneuver node. I'm already flying over the target area, you can see, and I'm just going to do that. You see how we're going to go down and basically crash land in that biome? So let's do that maneuver. It's 1 minute and 50 seconds to get this done. Warp to the maneuver. Cry baby cry, make your mama sigh. There you go. So we'll time warp. Our engine's online. We have lots of delta V, and it doesn't take much delta V to land on Minmus. Check out our landing legs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Just doing a little deorbit burn here. Doesn't have to be exact because we're landing. And now I can just follow this down. Are those the flats? Oh wow, the flats look totally different now. I don't like them. That's odd. They're so textured now. Yeah. No, I'm just about to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we have like family staying with us with the stuff that's going on right now, so I'm cooking pork chops for everyone, y'all. Oh, it's also their anniversary. Oh wow, huh? So I'm cooking pork chops for the whole family here tonight. So it's my night to go and make sure we cook the pork chops. So now I'm just gonna do the landing. This is what we wanted to be over. There's 150. We have really good thrust to weight here. This is not rocket science again. I'm just going to burn so that I'm flying straight down. It really doesn't matter where I land in this biome. That just got rid of a bunch of velocity. I'm using reaction wheels. We'll fall down. I haven't done very many F5s for safety. Oops. And now it's not letting me warp any faster. So let's keep doing that. Burn that up to the top. Make it so I'm falling straight down. There we go. Once I get the little green X up on the top of the nav ball there, at that dot, that basically means that I'm falling straight down. I'm not falling like this. I'm falling straight down. Not the most efficient way to land, but we have lots of delta V. So now we're just going straight down. We can go here. 1,100 meters up. There's 1,000. 900. Let's slow this down some. 700 down at 29. 500 down at 32. 400 down at 34, slowing it down. Okay, dropping at 15 now. 300 down at 15. Get a little throttle to slow it down a little bit. There's 100 down at 16. 10 seconds. There's 10 down at 100. Or 100 down at 10. Slowing it down now. Gotta land. Hovering at 4.8, 4.9. The engine's on. It's just like super deep throttled right now. 20 meters. 8 meters, 7 meters. And we have a soft touchdown on Minmus. We're dancing for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why the probe has landed softly on Minmus and is dancing now. It's a mystery. It's happy that it's landed on Minmus. I don't understand why it's doing that. There you go. You can turn the spring all the way down, and that stopped it. Okay, it's not dancing anymore. We're fine. So now all I need to do is right-click on this, and you can see it says the average. For this part that we've landed in, it says 6.42 average. But if we run analysis, that's going to give me resource analysis performed for Minmus lesser flats. So now I want to go back up to the mothership. The mothership's, oh, it's already passed over us. Let's see if we can switch back to the mothership, because now we can get the exact concentration at each area. We go KerbNet access. Let's bring our field of view all the way up and refresh. And I just need to see if we can't find the flats anywhere. There you go. Do you see how that's changing now? As we click around in there, I can see, I can't zoom this out anymore, but I can actually click at different areas and I can see 6.4, 6.42, 6.38, 6.48, 6.49, 6.39. It's easier if this probe is actually flying over that flat right now. But see how up there it just says 2.99? Like everything's 2.99? You haven't performed a ground truth in that biome yet. So you don't really know exactly where the good ore is. You know that that biome is sort of okay, but you don't know exactly where to look. And when you click in a biome that you've performed the ground truth on, there's 4.54, or sorry, 6.52. I think 6.52 maybe 6.34, 6.41. 6.52 may be the best 6.52 or in that biome. So we can put down a waypoint. We can come over and look at Kerbin, and we can see right there on the very edge, that was the best scan that we got. So if I wanted to build a refinery in the best place in that biome, I would want it to be down in that little corner. And it would be easier if my craft was flying over. I could change the field of view. I could zoom in and click refresh, and then I could get even finer detail, and I could click exactly where I want to. But that's how I can identify exactly where the best place to land is for the ore. Does everybody get that? That was, I landed the lander, I ran the surface analysis, and then I came back to the narrowband scanner, which is still in orbit, and I did KerbNet access, and the KerbNet access is what allows me to see the details for that biome. And I don't think, yeah, I haven't scanned any of these biomes because we've already orbited over right now. See that? So we'd have to wait till we come back around again. I'm going to do one more thing. I want to find a really dense ore patch and hop to it. So let's send the cutoff. All the way up. There we go. So there's supposed to be really good ore. I mean, that's actually on the equator. There's supposed to be really good ore somewhere over here, but we already have this marked. So I can fly to that 9.02 ore field, and I can scan this biome with the hopper. So let's go down here, switch to this, and jump that way. One biome patch suffices for all similar biome patches. That's correct, Lotharian. Yes. You scan that biome, and it gives you the ore concentration on all instances of that biome on the planet, or moon, or whatever it is, right? So I'm going to activate my navigation here. It doesn't look like I can see that off in the distance, but it's up here. So when I take off, I need to go that way if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to F5 for safety because I'm doing this a little fast. I think we need to take off going in this direction. Yes. No, it's this way. I took off in the wrong direction. Yeah, we need to go this way. No such thing as too much Delta V. Let's go this way instead. Okay, much better. That looks a lot better. And looks good. Again, we want to fly over the target area, right? So then I'm going to put, I don't want the line to end at the target area. I want to fly over it. And then when I get like right here, that's when I want to slow down and try to get a little closer to the target area. It's going to rotate some, so we're not going to land exactly there. We don't need to land exactly there. But we'll be close enough. That's not overkill, it's just mission flexibility. Nice. So let's time warp to that maneuver. There's Kerbin up there still. We're going to a faster time warp. 3 minutes before the burn. Get ready to flip back around here. Okay. And I did ham it up with the reaction wheels on this thing. I mean, we're basically going to that sort of high area. Let's just do it. Link Runner, I appreciate the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you very much, Link Runner. There we go. Now we'll go back to surface mode and we'll fall down towards the planet. Make sure that this is in mountain mode, because now that we're landing higher up here, I want to make sure I know what my altitude above the surface of the planet is. So that's 1200. Let's get it down to 1000 and we'll start slowing down. Okay, again, I'm trying to push that green X up to the top of the nav ball. That means that I'm falling straight down. Not the most efficient way to land, but you know something, count it. Now we're falling straight down. Removed almost all of our horizontal speed, 600 up. And you could certainly hop around here trying to find a flat area to put a refinery. That actually looks kind of flat over there in the background. Cannot quick save while about to crash. What? I'm not about to crash. I'm about to attempt a landing. That's dumb. Whatever, I guess. We're landing here. Whatever, min-miss. I mean, it's pretty flat right here. It's not completely flat, but it's kind of flat. All right. The whole thing sort of settled down there. I wasn't going to crash. Landing is crashing, only controlled. Yeah, that was dumb that you couldn't quick save there. I don't know why it didn't let me quick save. But now I've landed in this biome. Let's see how close to the marker we got. Didn't quite get to the marker, but good enough. I'm fine with it. And if we do our ground truth, it says it's 13.46 here. And that says right here it's 13.46. So this, now that we've run ground truth there, we need to go back to the narrowband scanner. And we need to wait until we fly over it. Which is going to be a couple orbits. Wow. Okay, let's not do it like that. One more orbit. Oh my gosh, I time warped past it. Oh well, whatever. It'll come over to this side as well. We can time warp to this side too. I should be able to scan that biome everywhere now. There's one going up. Okay, the good one. This is a good pass. Right there. So let's go back over here. Let's go back to our narrowband scanner. Go to our KerbNet access. And let's go ahead and check that out. That still says 3.99, but there's our 13.41. So I need to zoom out my field of view a little bit. 13.46, 13.47, 13.62, 13.57. There's 6.0. 5.2, 4.5, 5.1, 5.7, 5.4, 5.2, 6.4. I think 6.4 is about the highest we've seen, right? 5.9. Any of these would be fine. But where was that 13.62? Right here? There's a 13.62. Or field 13.62. Set waypoint. Where is that ore field 13.62? It's almost on the North Pole. Look at that. Did you see a 13.67 somewhere? But we could continue to do this. We're flying over the entire planet. We could keep clicking around everywhere. 5.7, 4.9, 4.8, 5.4. That's something we haven't scanned yet. There's some 4.7s. Oh, you could do that. You could just click and drag. There's a 6.6. Where's that 13.67? Minesweeper. There's 13.67. Or field 13.67. Waypoint. Yeah, both pretty close to each other. That 13.67 is an even higher latitude. Look at that. So that might be a place to put a refinery if we could find a flat spot there. I would probably activate navigation to there. Switch back down to here. And then let's hop up there and see if that's the place. Again, y'all, I'm going to have to build and deploy the refinery on the next stream. I am going to have to go here today. It's really too bad that activating navigation doesn't show it to you on this view. But we need to go north out of here. And did I activate that navigation? 13.67, yes. So I'm just going to F5 for safety on the ground. Take off one more time. And start pointing to the north. There's the ore field we want to go to. And there we go. Flying all the way over the target. Put something right there. Add the maneuver and tell it to come in for a landing. Put the maneuver a little bit further out. Let's see how close to that thing we can land. 137. Get this to flip back around this way. Time warp up to the maneuver. That should like make deliveries easier up on the North Pole. Yeah, if it was on the complete North Pole and you had it in a polar orbit, that would be fantastic. You might have good solar charge up there. I don't know if it's high enough in elevation that it actually gives you solar charge constantly. But we could see. Maybe it'll be a little bit flatter up here as well. All right. We're almost directly over the target area right now, so we'll go ahead and stop. Get my dorsal side set up and go downstairs and cook some pork chops. There you go. Get rid of the maneuver node. Just make it so I'm falling straight down. Again, this isn't the most efficient way to do it, but it works. We should have put a docking port on this and we could have refueled from the mothership. Oh well. There you can actually see minus. Oh, that's orbit. Needs to be in surface. I'm like, we're still got a little bit of vertical speed or horizontal speed there. There we go. All right, 500 up, down at 16. 400, 300, 200, 100, down at 23. Slam on the brakes. See how slopey it is right underneath this here. It looks pretty slopey. Wow, that really long shadow. The shadow's all the way over there, look. There we go. Let it settle in. So what is the ore concentration right here? Oh, we don't need it. The ore concentration right here is 13.62. So we're close, but we didn't land exactly in the highest area. And I will tell you, probably the easiest way to get it exact is a rover that can drive. As opposed to constantly trying to hop, hop, hop. A rover that actually is able to drive around might be the best thing. I don't know that I would even put a refinery right here because it's sort of a slope. I would probably try to take it up the hill a little bit or put it over on this rise or something. But that right there is how we can find... Yeah, we would need to hop to the east a little bit. We can find ore on a planet. Planetary body, moon, whatever, etc., etc. I'm going to scroll through real quick and see if I missed any other questions. I'll build the refinery and launch it on the next help desk so that we can have something that actually lands and then a way to dock other craft to it and transfer fuel and stuff around. But transferring fuel to the ship, yep, we'll talk about that next time. I'll leave that up. ScanSat, receive, okay, that's about ScanSat stuff. We answered what an RTG was. Not a full answer now, but do you think it's possible to make normal engines act like RCS using cal and control bindings? Yeah, in range areas, we can make a mainsail RCS. I think you should be able to make a mainsail RCS. We'd have to look at it to exactly how that could work, but I think you could probably get pretty close to it, like Ion RCS or something would be cool. And that has all the questions. I don't even see any other questions. Is there a level device? No, I'm not aware of a device that'll tell me my angle here. I know that I could go Alt F12. And if I do physics arrow and look at the arrow data, that'll tell me my pitch. So if I look at the pitch from the arrow data, that's 87 degrees. So I'm like 3 degrees off straight up and down. I know I can look at it there. That's like a 3-degree slope. If that's, well, it's not a 3-degree slope because my landing legs have leveled me out some. So if I point myself exactly up and down, oh, well, no, that makes me closer to 90. So I would need to get rid of the landing legs to try and figure out exactly what the slope was. Like, you would need the craft to be on something that looks like it's on the slope. And that's like almost an 8-degree slope is what that looks like, I guess. Anyways, question, do all Kerbal planets have their equators aligned with Sol? I think apprentice tilted. Yeah, they're all normal. Deactivate SAS. I don't know if that would actually straighten it out exactly flat or not. It may actually start to lean. Yeah, it's actually leaning more in one direction, see? With no SAS. So that's just getting worse and worse. Look at, you can see it leaning over. But yeah, Ubazon, there's no tilted axis anywhere in Kerbal. The Kerbin system, they're all straight up and down. They don't have any axial tilt or anything like that. That was something they were talking about having for Kerbal 2. But no seasons in Kerbal Space Program. That thing does not look stable at all. Geeson, parallel lines have so much in common, it's a shame they're never going to meet. Oh my gosh. Really? Anyways, y'all, I know it's sort of weird that we're splitting it in half, but next time we do a help desk, we'll see if we can get this done tomorrow. We will actually build the refinery, and we will deploy it over here to our good refinery area. That will be our plan for the